Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Chris with episode 30 of Should I Play That? And we have a full house tonight. I am excited. I sort of feel like this is like season 2 because we have a full house. We're back to doing topics at the end of the episodes. So we're gonna just jump right into it. So we got Rod in the house. What's going on, Rod?
Not only do we have a full house, we are celebrating our dirty 30s with two of probably the people who have been on the show the most often, I would say. We're the, closest, to the podcast. I would say I am very excited to have these guys on. Chris, let's go ahead and roll out that carpet for them.
All right, so first up, we got a Should I Play That faithful. We got James in the building. What's going on, James?
What's up, everybody? Vault King Jay Green here, back again once again, and today, episode 30. Let's get it.
Nice. And we also have Game Master Herb. How's it going, man?
It's good, man. Nice to be here once again. Much pleasure always. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's nice to sit down with gamers and actually talk about stuff instead of yelling over everything,
We're not yelling today?
And that's like the feel that I like to have on the show is like, we're sitting by like a campfire. We're just reminiscing on games, having fun. No arguments, no back and forth. Like, it's more or less like we're just here to like just have fun and just talk about video games. Like, there's no fanboy wars. We're past that stage. We're in the dirty 30s right now. We're a little bit more sophisticated than that.
We grown now.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, just going around the room, like, everybody, like, what's new? What's going on? James, her.
I mean, honestly, it's nice to be able to just kind of settle in for a while because it's been a busy couple of weeks for me in between the whole hurricane thing and then vacation before that. So I've been traveling a lot, but settled in to my house. Got a nice little game I'll talk about in a little bit. It's been
how'd the hurricane treat you, man?
Honestly, we did fantastic in comparison to like the people in the Bahamas. Thoughts with them, that's wild.
Sure.
But we got out very, very blessed, lucky, I would say. Not too much damage. Matthew was a lot worse to us, so this was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and Herb, what's new, man?
So I definitely want to touch on that as well. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and I grew up with hurricanes as a regular part of life every year. And sometimes, it's not so bad, but other times it's like scary and shit can be over. Shit can just change all in a moment, So definitely thoughts for the Bahamas and all the islands down there. They deal with it every single year. Miami gets a lot of it, but the islands have it worse. There's nowhere to go if you're not wealthy, if you don't have your own plane or boat. I mean, you're kind of like, that's it. You just got to deal with it. You got to hunker down.
Mm-hmm.
So thoughts for that. I'm doing pretty well. I've got 2 weekly arcades going right now and a couple monthly ones coming up. Next week I have a thing called Bullshit Fest. I know, right? Perfect, yeah. They've got a bunch of DJs, a bunch of vendors. I'm going to have my arcade there. It is at the Murphy Park Fairgrounds. I'm pretty excited for that. I'm spending time with my hubbies. I am playing games, of course. I've been streaming like double time this past 2 weeks. I usually do only 2 streams a week on Twitch, and this past 2 weeks it's been 4 a week because I'm just like, I don't know, I'm enjoying myself, so I figure I'll just run with it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, things are good. Gaming as always, spending time with good people, trying to enjoy the last little bits of summer before I have to put a hoodie on,
Yeah, we're what are they calling it now? It's like I think we got hit with like false fall like a week or two ago.
False.
Yeah, and now we're back in like summer part 2, Electric Boogaloo. So I'm just ready to like bust out the hoodies and just be able to like enjoy outside, because right now, fuck outside. Like it is not fun being outside right now.
It feels good. I think it feels good tonight, but in general lately, yes.
Yeah, it's been a little. Yeah, it's been pretty hot outside. Yeah,
What-
but Rod, what about you, man?
I'm drowning in video games. It sounds like, oh wow, first world problems, and you wouldn't be wrong. But at the same time, it's overwhelming. We are in mid-September, and I feel like
True.
trying to plan out what I'm going to play next is like a second job at this point. It's not even obtaining the games. It's like just finding the time to actually play them.
You know what's funny about that is that like behind the scenes, like we sort of like made that list of like, what we're gonna be playing, what we're gonna be covering. But to tell you the truth, like things are popping up that are taking my attention. Like I haven't even been able to touch the games I wanted to touch right now.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm going out and, doing life things and trying to fit in, gaming time with all the social obligations and work and life obligations. It's very difficult, but we get through it and make a good show out of it. So
Exactly.
What about you, Chris? What's going on with you?
Oh, hey man, same old, like, just, working hard. Like it feels like, it's like the calm before the storm, like with my two jobs. So I'm enjoying the time that I have right now, like playing video games, because I know, in like a month or two, I'm gonna be just swamped with work. So, I'm definitely enjoying this time of like being able to bust through a couple of games and having like a lengthy list for these episodes. But yeah, in a couple of weeks, it's I don't know, it's gonna be a little different, but I'm excited. Things are good. Things are, I am blessed right now. Being able to talk to you guys about video games every week, just being able to do this stuff. Like I'm in a happy place right now.
That's the best thing. That's the best way to start this episode, man. I love it.
Dude, same. I feel like, we all have ups and downs in our life and peaks and valleys. It's right now. I definitely feel, I don't know if peak is the right word because that implies that it's about to go down. But I feel pretty damn good right now. Like I don't know, just in my own personal life, like not counting the rest of the world, not counting anything that's going on, because there's always something going on. Just like how I feel about things, how things are going, personal, business, whatever. Like things are pretty damn good. Like I can't complain, and that feels good. So
Nice.
I'm with you.
Nice.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into a section that we call "What You've Been Playing." So if this is the first time you've ever listened to the show, welcome. This is Should I Play That? It's a great show. Definitely, like us on social media, on our pages. Should I Play That? We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Just hit us up. Just, follow and subscribe. We have more content on the way. But we have I think this might be like, what you've been playing part 2, because I feel like this little chunk that, we're about to jump into, we have some big games on this list. We have, a nice, like, varied list of games that we're going to talk about this week, but I'm excited. We have some news later on in the episode. GameStop still in the news. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Tokyo Game Show. And then at the end of the episode, we're going to jump into our topic. And it's going to be about music and video games, what it means to us and what's our favorite soundtracks. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start with our What You've Been Playing. And James, we are excited to have you back to talk about this game. James, what you been playing?
All right, so I know I mentioned one big one. I'm going to scan over 2 quick ones real quick because I have played these. I don't want to leave them out.
Mm-hmm.
So not Gears of War 5, but Gears of War 4. I have Game Pass Ultimate, and then I realized I was getting the game whether I wanted it or not. So I was like, well, let's go ahead and get ready.
Catch up. Yeah, catch up.
Right, because I haven't played Gears since 3. I missed Judgment. I think that's the only thing that's been out between then and 4, right? 3, Judgment 4.
Yeah, that's right.
And now
Yeah.
5.
Mhm.
Okay.
You didn't miss too much of Judgment.
Oh,
Okay.
well, there was the pop game, but
Oh, God, is that out? I thought it was coming to phones or something.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it
out.
is on phones. Yeah.
One of the best E3 announcements, period. But yeah, I jumped into 4 because I wanted to catch up for 5. I don't think I've gotten too far. I've established what the new threat is. And and I'm actually on the way to one of their nests right now. I don't want to spoil too much of the game if you haven't played Gears of War 4.
I have not. So is it Locust still?
It seems like it, but not really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like a Destiny approach. How it's like how it's the Vex and then it's the Taken.
Oh, right.
That kind of
okay.
thing.
Okay.
But getting to know the new characters, and they're okay so far. JD is the son of Marcus Phoenix. Spoilers: Marcus Phoenix is in the game. It's like a 3-year-old game by now. It's Gears of War. He has to be in it. It's guaranteed. And then there is this new character. Her name is Kate. I feel like she's the protagonist of 5. So apparently she's gonna have a role to play in 4. But I just kind of taken the trip through, and honestly, it just feels like more Gears. Cover system has been, I'd say tweaked to make things a bit more fluid. Vaulting over cover is a lot better now. You kick enemies in the face. Launcher still feels like amazing to just chop through things. Few new weapons, but it seems like in 4 they really focused on a horde mode aspect in the single player.
How does that work in the single player?
So they have these boxes called fabricators, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. You can make weapons, you can make defenses, and like the first mission is we're breaking into this cog base to get a fabricator for our camp, and we end up bringing the fabricator back to the camp. The camp gets attacked, so of course you have to defend the camp and all the people. And that's when it throws you into that horde mode, the tower defense kind of feel.
Right.
It's like spin points here, set up turrets, set up flooring, that kind of thing, or just pick new weapons. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of horde modes in general, so it's okay. I can see why people would enjoy it. It still feels great for Gears. The gunplay is still solid. The weapons feel the same. Still got the Lancer, still got the long shot, the sticky grenade, incendiary grenades, all that.
Yeah, see, Gears 4 and 5 are games I intend to go to eventually, and that actually, I didn't know that they incorporated the horde stuff into the narrative. Like that's actually really appealing to me because the horde mode in Gears is probably one of my favorite ones that's ever.
That's
been
probably why they
implemented.
went that route.
Ah, okay.
Because I know a lot of folks did enjoy horde mode. It's just, I like trudging through hallways, gunning down enemies. That's just how it is.
Right.
This is my style of play. But so far I'm enjoying it. If I can ever tear away from my third game, I will definitely get back into it. But I'm gonna be locked in for a while with this, I can tell already. And game number 2, this one I literally just started yesterday over again. I feel like it was finally time. In honor of our boy Ash Ketchum. Finally busting out that championship win. I've decided to take my trip to Alola. Pokemon Ultra Sun. Got for my 3DS.
Cool.
Yeah. Went with Rowlet as my starter. He is the grass type owl. So far he seems pretty cool. He's a physical attacker, so he's just kind of busting through a lot of the early game enemies. Little slow, but besides that, cool mon. Honestly, I'm just trying to see what else is going on in the Alola. I've seen a few of the new Pokemon. I got to get me a Rockruff.
Is that the Sun and the Moon? Is that the one with the Mega Evolution?
This is the one with the Z moves. I think it still has Mega Evolution, but Mega Evolution came about in X and Y first.
Okay,
Yeah.
I played that one. Okay.
But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the game in the opening sequence. I feel like it'll get better, but it's super handholdy and really slow.
Yeah, that's how I feel about modern Pokemon in general. I think the core game is still there and it's good, and they've added on a lot of things, but I feel like it's like, just let me play, dude.
Yeah, it won't let me just play. I'll have a battle and then 20 minutes of story, and then another battle, and then they'll heal me, and then 15 more minutes of story.
That's most of the game. It's like
Is all of it like this?
well, not all of it. Like it's gonna open up at pretty soon. But like I feel like the beginning of that game in particular, it is like they're it's like a heavy tutorial. Even though we've been playing Pokemon for 20 years
20
now.
plus years.
Yeah, but I mean
right.
they're really heavy on like bringing in new people, so introducing the new people to like what the world's about. But yeah, like I'm like just be ready of fighting about to fight your rival. He's gonna heal you instead of just jumping you right outside of a cave.
Yeah, I noticed that. She's like, oh, let me make sure you're good first. Top you off. Want a fair fight? And I'm like, all right. And you should have let me get weak if you wanted a fair fight. And it's cool though. But I'm looking forward to catching some more Mons, taking the trip through Alola, becoming the next champion. And I just hope that they tone that down a bit for Sword and Shield. I feel like they won't, because I feel like it's getting worse the further on in the series we go. But Game Freak, if you're listening and it's not too late, options, difficulty slider, something.
See,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
like difficulty slider. Yeah.
I
say I know what the map is, don't tell me what the map is.
Yeah, I say that'd be cool, but then at the same time, I'd love for them to like flesh out the post game. Like give me like Battle Tower, give me like a bunch of like extra things to do instead
But I heard that they do that in Ultra Sun, don't they? Because I've heard Red and Blue are there. I heard you can fight like other champions.
Yeah, they do have that Battle Tower, but like I don't know, like I think I was spoiled with which game was it that had like a really fleshed out post game? I think it was like Emerald, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. Like both of those had like really deep post games.
Did they have Battle Frontier? Was that theirs?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's why. Battle Frontier, like Battle Tower and stuff.
I may be biased because I've played maybe the fewest amount of Pokemon games in this room right now.
No, same, man. Same. Yeah.
Like the post game for Gold and Silver was like the coolest thing to me as a kid. Like like being able to just complete that region, and then it's like you think you're done, or maybe you might go to like the some cave to catch Mewtwo or whatever new Pokemon was out. Like instead, Professor Oak was like, "Hey, you should go to Kanto, the place from the first game." And I don't know why, like that was amazing. And it would be like new, like the world had progressed. Like there was obviously like time had passed between the original game and Gold and Silver. And so like it was clear that when you went to revisited these places, it was like the same people, but things were like just slightly different. So it didn't feel like a total retread. I remember that just blowing my mind. And I haven't felt like, have any of the games done anything like that since? Just
the remakes, Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Okay. Interesting.
I feel like they should do that for Ultra Sun. I don't think they do, but they've mentioned Kanto multiple times in just the opening sequence.
Okay.
Like you can check the globe and it's like, this isn't too far from Kanto.
Okay. I feel like the whole mythology behind Red, it just fascinates the hell out of me.
He shows up in the game too, so.
Yeah, like this mute kid who has like, well, I guess he's not even a kid anymore, right? He's like a young adult. He's just like this mysterious figure who owns all these kick-ass Pokemon and is like a hermit, who's left his town at the age of 10. And like, I don't know, it's just so cool that they continually reference him. And I think I brought this up in a prior show, maybe one of our earliest ones, but like with Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, the timeline is so weird because it's like certain things clearly have happened in the past in that game. Like Kanto in Red and Blue is not the exact same one, but the same things are happening in Let's Go. Like the Saffron, what is it? What's in Saffron? What that gets
Safari Zone?
Yes, yeah, or not Safari Zone,
wait, no,
but
that's
whatever, something. Team Rocket's doing something.
Yeah, Silph Code.
Rocket Corner, the game.
Yeah,
corner.
yeah, yes, the game corner. So
okay,
so they have like they're acting like it's being discovered for the first time, and people in town, like after you infiltrate it and like eliminate it, people are like, "Wow, I can't believe like there was a Team Rocket underground place here." Yet Blue exists in this world as Blue. Like, and Professor Oak acknowledges that, like, yeah, my asshole grandkid, like, did go to the Pokemon League and, like, succeed for 5 minutes before Red destroyed him. So, I don't know, that's a random aside, something that's always bugged me about Let's Go. I like Let's Go a whole lot, but That really bugged me, and I didn't know if you guys had any more insight about timelines.
Apparently, that comes into some type of story beats in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Oh, really?
Like
Okay.
different timeline, different dimensions or something like that.
Okay, please return to the show so we can discuss this further.
Yeah, when I get through, when I finish my journey, I will come back and talk about how I became the very best.
Like no one ever was. Okay, gotcha.
Never.
Gotcha.
I feel like the Let's Go games were really just kind of like for the people that remember Yellow, Red and Blue, and then for a new generation, but like totally, I think it was kind of just like here's something that tied you over until we get like the real next Pokemon out.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, sometimes a good gap filler is what you need, and I mean, a lot of people like it. I mean, we got it like first day because my hubby wanted to play it, and like I like Pokemon, but I'm not. That's one of those games where it's like your life has to be pretty devoted to it, and I have a hard time with games like that. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It
For
was
sure.
definitely easier back in the day when you had less options.
Oh yeah. Well, that and just like
It was.
you know, I don't know. It always made Pokemon was always like a road trip game for me. Like that's the game that you take in the car, with like with your friend or like with your sibling, and you know you're in this car and like you're on this whole trip and you end up playing the game like together. Like we used to pass it back and forth and just like catch stuff, and you know it was just like it was a whole thing. It was like a like Pokemon is like a journey game. Like I don't know if I could just drop into that at any time. I don't know.
Right.
See, I like with the original like Red, Blue, Yellow. I'm so much of a Pokemon nerd. I'd like dedicate like a weekend. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna reset the game and just finish the game in a weekend and
Awesome.
like get back to how it was. But this time I'll just do a different starter or something like that. So like
Mhm.
Red, Blue, and Yellow, like I could burn through that game within like a couple of hours now. It feels like so.
Cool.
Yeah, man, good times.
Yeah, for sure. All right, James, you said you had your big third game.
Ha, ironically, the third. Borderlands 3
Woot.
is my third game. I know it's been in the news lately for some issues technically, and I want to say that I am not dealing with any of those. Thank God.
You mean your
That's-
PlayStation 4 has not taken off yet and it's not taken flight?
Can you hear it now?
No, I cannot. Oh,
All
wow.
right.
Yeah.
I'm staring at Amara right now. She's ready to get back into action. But Borderlands 3 launched Friday, and I've been playing it all weekend. Currently level 26. Yeah, level 26. Amara, who is the Siren character, playing that melee playstyle, so that's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I jumped back into the beginning one more time to start out with Mose. I'm trying to go with the characters I'm not the most excited for first,
Mhm.
just to see what they can offer me. And honestly, I'm surprised. They've done a really good job with these characters so far. Because that was my issue with some Borderlands in the past. Some playstyles I just wasn't interested in. Characters just didn't seem like they were fun skill sets. I never played
Okay.
the Gunzerker because that was just boring to me. Dual wield, the end.
So
But,
here you're just having like more of a variety.
Yeah,
Okay.
and everybody feels different.
Mhm.
They feel like they actually have playstyles that they should play, they can play.
So I mean, can you give me an example of like what is available?
Okay, so for example, Amara, she is the Siren, so she is our mage class. Deals a lot with elemental damage, but she also plays the role of a melee character, which is interesting because typically mages are more like standoffish, but she will run into any kind of fight. Her skills deal with damage reduction, health regen, let me see, increased damage the closer you are to an enemy, be that gun or melee. Her melee attack now buffs her action skill, which you now have 3 of. So she can either do a ground pound, this air laser beam, or astral projection, where she does like basically she's like a clone of herself out and it does elemental damage.
Mhm.
And with these kind of skill trees, it lets you do a lot of customization. So you can have buffs from one skill tree that'll help buff your action skill from another skill tree, and then I can change the element of my attacks. So her base element is electricity, but I can change that to corrosive damage. I can change that to I believe it's flame damage. I haven't used that tree yet.
Okay, so those have returned then from previous games.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All the elements are there from previous games with the addition of radiation, I think is the new one. The only new one. There's cryo, there's incendiary, there's shock rounds, there's corrosive rounds. Yeah, and then there's radiation. I have not seen slag yet, if you guys remember slag from Borderlands 2.
I do, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Basically the debuff element. You would spray enemies like that and they took increased damage. I haven't run across one of those yet. I don't think it's in the game anymore. It's cool though, because slag was pretty OP in Borderlands 2. But man, where do I say?
Well, how's the new antagonist?
The new antagonists are interesting. I'm actually reaching a point into the story where things are starting to the dynamic between them is starting to shift.
Okay.
So this is I was gonna kind of wait to get into this because this is the thing I am the most curious about. So James, you may or may not know, like we've talked about this on the show before, maybe with you. But so I like playing Borderlands. I like playing the game. The writing is not something that appeals to me, at least in the past games. But with this third one, they've been out there. The producers have been out there talking about how, like, hey, we want to make a lot of the narrative and the writing kind of wrap around in a way that makes the obnoxiousness a little more directed in a way. Does that work, or is this more of the same, like more of what 1 and 2 were?
If I remember correctly, you made it seem like in 2, they were just kind of being ridiculous for the sake of ridiculousness.
Mm-hmm.
And
At a certain point, yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could say that this is a bit more focused. Claptrap is still here. I know you still hate him.
Oh no.
He is a little less. He's not as prevalent in this game.
Really?
Like he has his own cabin in the ship, and he pretty much stays there.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder if that is a choice, like a deliberate choice by them, or if it's something else.
I mean, you still meet him immediately upon starting the game. You get off the bus and there's Claptrap. So you go through that whole mission with him. He gets into his Claptrap shenanigans, and then you help him out a couple of times, and then he's pretty much onto the ship for the rest of the game. At least so far. Honestly, I enjoy the writing. I think they're doing this really well. You know, Borderlands is always about that pop culture, those references, and making fun of the times that we're in. So these the villains, to get back on that, they are live streamers.
So, nice.
Yeah, they're straight up just live streamers. Like they kill somebody, and then they made a meme of it, and they play it in your face.
So doesn't say they're like, a Borderlands version of Jake Paul.
If we're gonna go that route, then we can go that route. Insert your favorite annoying internet celebrity here, and that's pretty much where it was.
Jake and Logan Paul.
Like there was a side mission I completed recently where this guy's like, I've pledged my soul to some demon, blah 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 blah. But social media stars is where I draw the line.
What?
Like it was that serious. He's like,
Wow.
those Calypso twins is where I draw the line. It's too much.
Yeah, it's funny that like people are making fun of that, like that's a thing now. Like I can't think of anybody specific, but there's definitely profiles I've come across on Instagram where people are like, oh, I'm not a social Instafluer. I'm not like a
Instafluer.
Right. I'm not like into like, being this personality, but then, the thing that they're really into is kind of just like, just drooling all over people who do exactly that. So that's funny that joke's in there.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
They went heavily into it. It's good. Like you take down broadcast towers, and it's basically their live streams.
Nice.
Like that kind of stuff.
They're good at staying relevant with those games. They're real sharp, real clever.
Right.
But I feel what you mean on the writing though. Like it's not always. Sometimes it's just kind of like a vehicle to get you from one thing to another. But I think that's kind of how games like that go, like Far Cry or like. Something open world and first person like that. Like there's just going to be points where it's not necessarily interesting. There's just almost like a big hat that the devs are pulling out from, like pulling all these one-liners and jokes out of, and it's just like, well, this one can be right here and this one can be right there.
Yeah, but this feels a bit more directed this time around.
Cool.
So that feels good.
I was gonna say, I feel like Borderlands always has, like, to me, the humor is always like that type of like Comedy Central, like let's be as like crass, or like let's try and like dance on the line the whole time. So
Right. Borderlands is Comedy Central, and Far Cry is like the Discovery Channel. There you go.
I think they're a bit better with it this time around, I think, personally. Like, even there's a line where you get the catcher ride, and Ellie comes over the horn and she's like, "Hot Wheels for that guy or girl, whoever they into, we don't judge." And I was like, good stuff like that. Just to like, that's what people are looking for nowadays, inclusion, and they're all about that in this game.
Cool.
Like, you get hit on whether you're male or female by everybody. It just is what it is.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fun. But also, I think some of the best writing, honestly, comes from the side quests. I've been having a lot of fun just jumping off and seeing what else comes out of the story, picking up echo logs and actually listening this time. Like, it's a fantastic experience, and I haven't even gotten to play the other characters that I want to play yet. So I already know I'm gonna have like at least 4 more playthroughs of this game, not counting Vault Hunter mode, because everybody's getting to 50. I've already decided.
I've heard, so with the other games, like, people have complained before about how there's not enough change in scenery, but in this one, there was a concerted effort to make sure that Gearbox was letting players know, like, hey, you get to go to tons of different places and environments. Does that hold true in the game?
Very much so. By the time you get that ship, you get off of Pandora, you don't have to come back. I've been to, what they call them, to the Atlas HQ. I've been to Hyperion HQ, and those are some of the brand makers of the guns in the game. So you visit different planets, and then you get to interact with the CEOs of these companies. And that kind of ties into the narrative of them sending you guns in the mail. So if you get so many certain kills, you get a gun from that store. But I'm currently on a swamp planet now. There's been the conglomerate city. We've done the outskirts of like a war-torn planet that's been under siege. So I'm kind of curious to see where we go from next, but I've already been inside a vault, so there's more of those. So yeah, there's a lot of variety, and the maps are huge.
I was just thinking, so with the gun companies sending you like free guns in the mail, do they make any reference of like being sponsored or something like that? Like how people are, influencers now and they get sent things. Do they actually make like a?
Yeah, they actually make references for that.
Oh, okay, that's clever. I like that.
Like, you can make 100 kills with a Jacobs, you'll get more Jacobs guns, sending with all the other ones. And Jacobs seem to be my favorite brand right now because they just feel so good. That's the other thing, man. The gunplay, just moment-to-moment gameplay, feels so good.
Yeah, like that's the thing for me with Borderlands, and that's what's ultimately going to get me to play it eventually. Is because I do plan on picking it up. Is that like the gunplay does feel really good, and the amount and variety of weapons that you receive is so constant, and so varied that like you never really get bored with that.
And it even goes down to the animations. Like,
yeah,
every gun feels different between how you fire it, how you reload it, the different scopes you use.
Yeah,
like,
I find that series does have a good sense of progression and giving the player just enough, that they get that 30-second hit like every time, just have that dopamine of like, oh man, I got this awesome gun, this cool skin or whatever. Like, I'm gonna check this out and what's that? Like it happens so often and it's good. That's really good.
And that's pretty much what I've been riding the last few days now. Just
nice.
The dopamine high of crits.
How far in are you, like hours wise?
You know what? Let me check. I don't know if it has like a play count on here. I do not know. I'm halfway through the level cap, so.
Okay. So it's a pretty, would you say maybe about similar length so far?
Yeah.
To other games? Okay.
I would say so. People have been saying about 30 hours through the campaign.
Okay, that's good.
But I've been taking my time with it, so it might be like 30 to 40 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see a time clock on here, which is odd.
Now that this is the official, current gen version of a Borderlands title, do you get the load screens in between worlds, or is it seamless?
No, load screens are there.
Oh, they are there. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually did not know that. Huh. So I guess they must have packed in just so much shit in those areas if there's actually loading in between.
Mm-hmm. It's not stupid long. I'm playing on a pro, so take that with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they're there. You sit back, you read a couple quick tips, and then you're in the game.
Okay.
But they're not so egregious that like you're always on a loading screen.
Okay. I did notice that as when I was going through Borderlands 2, like I forgot how much loading there was in that game.
Yeah. If anything, my only complaints are on the technical side of things.
Okay.
Of course, it's 2019. Games don't always come out optimized the way they should.
Mm-hmm.
That first initial load for Borderlands took quite a while. I was worried about it. I'm like, I don't want to shut this game off. I got to load this screen all the time. It's not so bad anymore. But the menus are still pretty laggy for going through your inventory. And they'll have some points where I'll switch over to my ability tree and the trees won't load. I'll have to press down a couple times and then it'll finally like pop into the screen. But so yeah, like when you're managing your inventory, trying to get rid of all these guns because they're throwing billions of guns at you, it kind of takes you out of the experience. So I always make it a sure thing to go through and empty out my bag before I go into a new area because I don't want to have to stop and do all this over again.
Right.
But again, of course, that'll be fixing the patch. I'm sure they know. Because we'll definitely let them know. Gearbox, your game's glitchy.
Yeah, I'm curious about post-launch support. Like, I'm sure Gearbox is going to do, just right by it. I'm sure it'll be fine. But I do wonder, like, in terms of DLC, like what they've got planned. Have they announced anything?
I have not seen what the DLC list was. But I would feel like it's very similar to 2.
Right.
I would expect very much the same thing. A couple new Vault Hunters, like 4 packs. There's 4 DLC packs.
Okay.
I don't know what they are yet, but 4 DLC packs. I'm trying to see what the new Vault Hunters are. I'm really curious about that now.
But I mean, it's good to hear that with all the controversy that Borderlands 3 or just more or less Gearbox has been through over the past couple of months,
or Randy Pitchford,
or maybe if we're gonna pinpoint it. It's good to hear that the game as a whole didn't suffer for it. Like the game itself is still good. It's just the people that make it, are questionable.
Oh, and quick tip for anybody who is playing on console and you don't get this patch before you hear this episode: turn off all the social network stuff. It slows down the game.
Wow.
I've actually cut it off, and it's a noticeable steadier frame rate. So. You can still get mail, but don't worry about like your friend killed 100 enemies. You don't need all that. Take your frame rate instead. Trust me. And play on performance mode, not resolution.
Isn't it funny that we have to make these choices now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really is.
That being said, though, switching settings, I mean, is a reality for any PC gamer forever, and really it has been for consoles for a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just funny to hear, like, all the stuff they add. It's like it's making it worse, guys. Stop.
Right.
Right.
We only have so much CPU space here. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. I'm currently playing, like right now. Bang. Okay, I'm done.
All right, nice. All right, so Herb, we got you next. What's going on? What you been playing, man?
All right, so I stream every Wednesday and Friday on Twitch. It's Three Bears Gaming with a Y, of course. And I've been going through. Well, okay, so maybe 2 weeks ago, I tackled Link's Awakening DX because the new one is about to drop on Friday, and I wanted to be, have it fresh in my mind, get back into it, get back into the feeling, get back into the music. And I really enjoyed it. I'd never played DX before. I'd only played the original many, many times. I've beaten the original. The DX version is in full color, of course. There's an extra dungeon, and they remove this very nifty little screen sheet that you can do to get past certain areas. Which, of course, I only tried to use once, and then I was like, all right, I'm not gonna be that dude. But yeah, Link's Awakening is really fantastic. If you've never played it, it's my favorite Zelda, I think, by far. I think it's because it wasn't my first Zelda game. Like, I played original Zelda and Adventure of Link and all that, but it was like the first one that was like mine. Like, nobody else used that Game Boy. Like, I was real young. Like it was my personal Zelda experience. You know what I mean? Like nobody was like sitting on the couch watching me play it. It's like, Game Boy is very, very like a personal thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the games I feel like I played on Game Boy when I was younger, or DS or any handheld for that matter, it's like those just like stick with me. I don't know what it is. It's like reading a good book. So Link's Awakening was fantastic. I can't say how much I love it enough. It's the only Zelda like, well, it's not the only Zelda without Zelda, but it's the first Zelda without Zelda. They introduce a bunch of new mechanics in it to Zelda at the time. The music is fantastic, and it's just long enough. It's like not too long. It's just the right length. All the pieces are there. All the characters you may remember, but it's like, it's just kind of twisted a little bit. It's a little put on its side, kind of like how Majora's Mask is. It's like the weird Zelda.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think it's got a really cool little appeal to it, and it also deals with kind of a moral dilemma, which I always enjoyed. If you don't know, basically, Link's Awakening is about Link sailing in the middle of the ocean and getting caught in a storm and washing up on an island. And on this island, there's a giant egg on top of a mountain, and apparently this thing called the Windfish is inside of it, and your quest is to do all the dungeons, get all the instruments, and play the song and wake up this Windfish. But if you wake it up, supposedly the whole island disappears, everything disappears, you disappear. So, for like a mobile game, essentially, back in the day, it was like a very different thing to think like, well, if I go kill this boss, like I'm actually like killing myself and this whole world a little more each time, and that was just kind of cool, especially for an 8-bit black and white game. It was just kind of mature and a little different. And originally, Link's Awakening was going to be a Link to the Past port, and I read this whole story about it. So the team that made it, basically, they were working on it, and they showed it to Miyamoto, and they showed it to Nintendo, and they were like, no, whatever. We don't like it. Keep working on this Link to the Passport. So they kept working on the Link to the Passport for Game Boy. And after hours, the director would continue to work on what would be Link's Awakening. So once they got to a certain point with it, they took it and showed it to Nintendo again and showed it to the higher ups, and they were like, oh my god, we love it, do that instead, screw the port. So it became its own thing, and I just think it's really important because Zelda is like a huge flagship mainline series. I mean, fucking Robin Williams named her daughter Zelda. You know what I mean? Like it's a force of culture. Zelda is like a whole thing, even outside of Smash or Nintendo or Mario or any of that. Zelda is its own thing. So to have sort of like a Zelda that the boys in the office were working on after hours be a thing that they're remaking on the Switch, to me is like a big deal. Not only from a nostalgia standpoint, but just because like I think it's a Zelda that's much more fueled by passion and creativity, I would say.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I think that's like evident from the art style as well.
Yeah. The new one has this sort of almost like miniaturized, like you're playing with a bunch of dolls kind of look to it. Everything is shiny. Everything looks kind of not Lego-y. I'm trying to think of like a good toy company that it looks like.
What were like the off-brand Legos? Not Connects or
Mega
Blocks.
Mega Blocks. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm really excited for that. So going through the old, it was cool because I got to go through the old one technically, but it was DX, so it was kind of a new experience for me too. It was cool to see it in color, and the extra dungeon, it's totally optional, but it is really cool. And yeah, so I'm really excited for that new Zelda. So after that,
wait, before you jump over, I got one quick question.
What's that?
You mentioned how you said the whole point is to wake up this fish, but if you wake up the fish, the island might disappear.
Yeah, like all the enemies, like no spoilers, but when everyone tells you right from the beginning, like the Windfish lives in this egg on top of the mountain. We've been waiting for a traveler to kind of like come and interact with him essentially. But we hear, the rumor is like if you wake him up, everything goes away, everything disappears.
So why would you do this?
I know, right? That's the thing, though. But it's like you're lost on this island, and you're supposed to get back to Hyrule, and you're just on kind of this like side mission, and it's like that's the dilemma. Is like, do I figure out where I am? Do I figure out what's going on here, or do I stay in the dream? And whose dream is it? Is it my dream? Is it the Windfish's dream? That's the whole thing.
This is sounding like a Kojima production.
Oh God, more Kojima.
It's very anime, yes.
Met with a terrible fate, haven't you?
Or in a dream of another dream.
Also, I have to point out, just on a technical standpoint, what I really like about Link's Awakening is that it was the first Zelda that let you have your shield as an independent button. So, like, every Zelda prior to that, when you have your shield, you just have it, and whichever way you're facing, it just works as long as you're not in the middle of attacking. But in Link's Awakening, it's like a button that you decide, so then you can just pull it out whenever you want. So I like that a lot better than the way they did it in Link to the Past and the original Zelda, because if you just want to like hold your shield out and push against something dangerous that you don't know if you can touch, you can do that. If you want to hold your shield out and defend yourself with your sword at the same time and be like total offense and defense all at once, you can do that too. It's like you can not use the shield at all. You can just put two different items there and do something different and have different combinations of like gameplay possibilities. And I like that. It was also like the first Zelda where you could set one button to bombs and one button to arrows, and then press them both at the same time, and you shoot bomb arrows.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they just had all these little cool ideas that just weren't really a thing yet until later Zeldas. And I honestly, I can't believe it's being remade. Like I can't believe it. When they announced that, I was like, wait, enough people like this to make this happen? Like, I'm not alone now? Okay, cool.
Right. I can check this out now.
The new one looks really cool, and something that I know they're adding for sure is like a dungeon maker. You can't place down like individual objects in a dungeon, but somewhere in the game you're able to go into a large blank area and kind of pull from all of the screens, which every screen in the game is a square because the whole game is a grid. So you're able to pull other dungeons, puzzles and traps and rooms and mix and match them as you please in a single dungeon. And that to me sounds really cool because then you're going to be able to send them to friends and then have people run through your own, it's like Zelda Maker. So I think that's pretty awesome, and I hope to see that in future Zeldas.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's them teasing us that they're making a Zelda Maker.
Right. I mean, that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
So Link's Awakening, and then I kind of had the itch for an FPS, and it had been a little while since I dug into one. So I started playing Shadow Warrior 2, and if you don't know what Shadow Warrior is, it's like a game from 1997 made by the same exact team in the same engine as Duke Nukem 3D. So it's very over the top, huge explosions, like you're running around like super fast, like shooting like 200 guys at the same time with like all these ridiculous weapons. It's very vulgar. It's way over the top. It's uncensored. There's like, all this stuff going on. And they remade that they remade Shadow Warrior in like 2014.
Yeah.
And then after that, they made a sequel, and that's the one that I've been playing. Shadow Warrior 2 is absolutely incredible. I played it for I think I beat it in about 20 hours, and that was just the story and the side missions, but not all the extra bounties or all the extra secrets. If you like Borderlands, if you like Left 4 Dead, if you like Far Cry, it is very much up that alley. But okay, so imagine those games, but no fall damage whatsoever. Very incredibly different locales, and you can unlimited dash and you can double jump. So it's like, you're Lil Wayne, you're this awesome like ninja assassin dude. You have swords and guns. Everything can be enchanted, with poison or fire or whatever. Everything can be upgraded. There's like endless amounts of weapons. It's not as much as Borderlands. I don't think there's any game with as many weapons as Borderlands, but throughout the course of the entire story, you're constantly getting new ones. You know, like in total, I think there's like 60 something.
Wow.
I had a really good time with it. The story is hilarious. You get hired by a couple Yakuza mob bosses and some really crazy, dangerous people. And then you also get hired by like demons and gods to do their handiwork. It's like very, very over the top, lots of cussing, lots of blood. I mean, watch a video or a trailer of this game. The speed at which you move and are able to dismantle your enemies is incredible. And when you slice stuff, like everything is breakable. So like, you know, you can interact with if you walk into, you know, a house or whatever. If you walk into a facility and there's furniture and you shoot your shotgun, like everything blows up. You know what I mean? If you got swords, you know, and you enchant them with the right elemental, you can have them fire projectiles out of them that slice people as they go through them, and it slices every single character, everything that you come across in exactly the way that you hit it with the sword. So it's like they just, there's a whole lot of detail. The graphics are gorgeous. I think it's a very good, like, if you just want to play something that's like Borderlands, but you don't necessarily want to commit your life to Borderlands, there you go.
No, commit.
It is good though, yes. But yeah, Shadow Warrior 2, very, very enjoyable. I had a really good time with that. It took me by surprise. I hadn't really heard much of it, and if you just look at the cover, it doesn't really show how awesome it is. But for anybody that loves Far Cry, Borderlands, Left 4 Dead, that kind of thing, check it out.
I feel like that's on Game Pass too.
I think it is, and I only got it because it was like $7 on PS4, and I was like, "What is this? How did I not hear about a sequel to a remake? What the fuck?"
Yeah, apologize about my little internet hiccup for a moment there. I dropped out of the room here, but
okay.
I wanted to say really quickly that it kind of reminds me of a slower, more mystical take on Quake or something like that. It's kind of what Shadow Warrior reminds me of.
Yeah, but I will say once you get like the dash and the jumping down, it's just like blinding. It's so fast. Like it feels like going back to Far Cry after that, whenever I get around to the next Far Cry, is like gonna feel like sluggish in comparison. It's like you're so quick, and you know, you have regenerating health, and you have like mystical powers you can use. So it's like this fusion of melee weapons, guns, and magic. And I really think they do a good job of capturing like enough of what Borderlands and Far Cry, like what makes those games good, but being its own thing too. I don't know if they're going to go any further with it. I think it's amazing that they even made a sequel to the remake, but yeah, it was very enjoyable, very inexpensive game. Totally took me by surprise. Probably one of the best looking games I've seen in a while as well. And I played it on PS4. I will say also, like Borderlands, there are bugs for sure. I've fallen through the stage before. I've had people talking to me that drift away. I've had, you know, doors and shit that don't work right. But like, you know, it's a quick restart the level. There you go.
Okay.
So I feel like that's just one of those things that happens with games that just have, you know, so much loot and so many variables for a different experience each playthrough. It's like it's very hard to kind of stamp out every bug that could be possible for those. So yeah, that took me, I'm gonna say, about 5 streams at like 4 or 5 hours each to do Shadow Warrior 2, and then so last week was the 20th anniversary of the Dreamcast. I feel like I could talk about Dreamcast every time I come on here.
As you should.
Absolutely. Yeah, we could too.
So 20 years, which is mind blowing. 20 years, it's been that long. The past week I've been just kind of rolling through Dreamcast games, and typically for a stream I will pick a system I like and then choose a random assortment of games from that. I'll make a little straw poll, voting little poll, and then have people in the chat, you know, vote on what they want to see next. So for the past 4 or 5 streams, it's been all Dreamcast games. Rayman 2 is the one that stuck with me.
Oh, wow.
I played a bunch. I mean, I played Choo Choo Rocket. I played Sonic Adventure 2. I played Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I played Tokyo Extreme Racer 2. I played Ooga Booga. I played Wetrix. I played a bunch of shoot 'em ups. But
Did you play any Power Stone?
no, but every Monday and every Thursday, let me tell you, Power Stone is on that TV. I actually, tomorrow's like fight night on the stream, or no, excuse me, tonight. I keep saying tomorrow because it's on the schedule. It actually says Thursday, But I figured I kind of stayed away like from most fighters on the Dreamcast appreciation streams purely because I knew I was going to do a fight night tonight. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, and there's so many. I mean, it's like you could do like 10 streams of just Dreamcast fighting games and you still wouldn't have played them all.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is about Rayman, but Rayman is such a weird character and such a weird franchise because in all actuality, like all of the games are good. And let me just put this in perspective for a second. So Mario and Sonic had like 1 million games out already, right? And in 1994, 95, on the Atari Jaguar, the first Rayman dropped and then got ported to Saturn and PS1 and PC and everything else. But it was supposed to be like the Jaguar seller, which of course did not work. Mm-hmm. But if you've ever played Rayman 1, it's like completely hand-drawn. The music is incredible. It's super fucking difficult. It's completely its own separate thing from a lot of other like mascot platformers. And then what's even cooler is that unlike every other franchise out there that has like a bunch of 2D games and then a bunch of 3D games, at least around that era, I feel like Rayman, it went from like a really good 2D side-scrolling platformer, and then all of a sudden Rayman 2 was like full-blown 3D Super Mario 64.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, I mean, if you look back on Metacritic, because I hadn't even thought about Rayman 2 in so long because, the past 10 years has been Rayman Origins, Rayman Legends.
Right.
And those have kind of brought back the
2D
art style
Rayman.
and the spirit of the first Rayman. And I feel like there hasn't been a 3D Rayman game in like, I don't even know. I guess Rayman 3 was the last one.
Yeah.
And that was a while ago. So I was just looking through, my discs and everything, and I saw Rayman 2, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pop this in. I popped it in for a stream, and then 5 streams later, I just beat it last night. And it's just one of those games that every time I play it, it grabs me. If you've never had a chance to play any Rayman game, you're a limbless little dude. You save this fantasy world from like darkness, more or less. It doesn't get that much more complicated, but it's the way that the story is told, the way the music comes together, the way the art style is. Like, let me tell you, this game came out in 2000, and amidst many, many other games out there that all had like very straight lines, 90-degree angles, very simple textures, things like that, Rayman 2 totally stands out. It feels more like a modern game. There's autosave. There's like very, very, lenient checkpoints. There's not a set amount of lives. If you get game over, you just start again at the checkpoint. It's all good. There's like a full map screen. Like everything looks smooth. No angle is perfect. Like everything in the game looks organic. Everything looks like each part of it was meticulously designed, as opposed to being on like a grid or something. I was really impressed. It's been a really long time since I played it, and then I started thinking like, wow, every Rayman game has good ratings, and they always do well when they come out. But for whatever reason, he's kind of like, he's always been second fiddle to like all the other mascots. So yeah, I mean, kind of an underdog, and it's weird. The guy who created Rayman is Michel Ancel. He did Beyond Good and Evil. He did that really good
Genius.
King Kong game. Yeah, I mean, like it's just kind of funny, like how different franchises come out. But personally, with Spyro,
it seems.
What?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, with Spyro and Crash being remade, I actually would like to see either a remake of Rayman 2 or a continuation of the 3D Rayman games. As much as I love Legends is an incredible 2D platformer, but like I really enjoyed this. It was actually really good and different, but it still felt like Rayman. So yeah, I just beat that last night, and then I kind of went on a rundown of a bunch of different Dreamcast games, just kind of showing some love and appreciation. It is still my favorite console. Just out of everything, I think it's still the best. To me, it was the biggest impact, the biggest like leap, forward. It didn't pan out necessarily, but I still like it.
Sega, if you're listening, Dreamcast Mini.
Yeah, there you go.
Just make it happen.
So yeah, Link's Awakening, Shadow Warrior 2, Rayman 2, and then I guess the last one would be me and my hubby have been playing Guacamelee 2.
Good choice.
That dropped this year. Great game, total Metroidvania, but if Metroidvania was on Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, and I like how instead of guns or swords or whatever, it's all wrestling and almost like beat 'em up moves.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, with like actually pretty complicated strings of moves and combos. Like you can, if you know how to do it, you can knock someone around the room completely in all four corners and get like 80 hit combo. I mean, it's like wow, you don't need to do that to win, but like plus it's 4-player co-op. The art style is incredible. The music is really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. I think the deluxe edition for everything is only like $12, and it came out this year. So I don't know if it's not necessarily doing well, but if you never played Guacamelee, play it. It's very, very good co-op, especially for players of different skill levels. You know what I'm saying?
Why do you say that specifically? What do
because for the hardcore like fighting game / Scott Pilgrim Double Dragon kind of dude, like it's there. The combos are there. The difficulty's there. They have this whole mechanic where like, okay, one button is dodge, and you have to dodge through certain colored things, or else you just can't pass them. And sometimes enemies throw out things that you must dodge. Then you have another button that switches between the living world and the dead world on the fly. So there's all these things that you can see. I'm trying to think of a good example, but there'll be like platforms and stuff that you can see, but you can't interact with until you're on the other side.
Right. That actually reminds me of another platformer from Ubisoft that came out a while back. It was like Outlast or Outland or something.
Outland, yeah, great game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Xbox 360.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, beautiful game. But yeah, there's a whole lot of switching going on, and a lot of it happens very quickly. You end up getting like a dash, and I'm talking like in the span of 5 seconds, you have to like dash and then dodge and then switch and then wall jump and then dash and then dodge and then switch and then wall jump, like all within like a very short amount of time. And it takes that whole like Symphony of the Night Super Metroid formula and really kicks it up a notch in terms of Twitch gameplay. I think it's very good for anybody who's into fighting games or beat 'em up games, but I say that it's good for people of all skills because just like New Super Mario Brothers, anybody can like bubble at any time. So if you come across a hard boss or a hard puzzle or whatever, as long as one person stays alive, like you're good. And I think that's a very wise decision. That's also a thing you can do in Rayman Legends, which I appreciate a lot. I think any game that has like the screen space to do so these days, it's like, why not just make it 4-player co-op just as an option? And then, when you get to certain parts that are easier with one person, then the other people just bubble. That's it,
Right.
But yeah, Guacamelee is awesome. Me and my hubby went through the first game earlier this year. Completely 100%ed it, which is not something that happens very often for me. It has to be a very, very, very good game for me to want 100% it.
Nice.
And it just, I don't know, it's addicting, and it's like, you get a buddy in there. It's got really good dialogue. Everything's like funny and clever and shit. It's like there's all this secret stuff to find. They even have little like wannabe Chozo statues, but they call them Chuzo statues. And this little goat dude like hops, like once you break it, he comes out of it and like hands you your power up and is real snarky and shit. It's kind of cool.
I'm actually super surprised you haven't gotten your hands on River City Girls yet.
I know, right?
Yeah, that seems
I've
like
been
a game
looking at
that's
it. It
totally
looks
up
good.
your alley. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've been craving a new kind of Scott Pilgrim sort of game.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
When you were talking about Guacamelee and you actually referenced Scott Pilgrim, it reminded me of that, and we had a conversation about that before as well.
cool. Yeah, River City Girls is on the list. Streets of Rage 4 when that drops is on the list for
Oof.
sure.
Can't wait for that one.
I think that's actually going to be like I don't know that beat 'em ups are necessarily like a big deal anymore, but I think if any game is going to bring back beat 'em ups or at least get the attention of people who haven't been looking at that in a long time, it's going to be Streets of Rage 4.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it later, but I'm just going to say it right now. Streets of Rage, the original, is absolutely on a top list of video game soundtracks of all time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was at a party and someone was like, had like a DJ set, and all of a sudden, like I'm hearing music from Streets of Rage 2, and like how sometimes like you're out somewhere and like you'll hear a song and like your attention immediately shifts towards it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like I'm like, yo, like this is Streets of Rage, and like I'm looking around and no one else is like. I feel like I'm making the biggest deal in the room that this is Streets of Rage playing. So I walk over to the DJ. I was like, yo, this is Streets of Rage 2, isn't it? He was like, wow, no one ever calls this out. But yeah, it's definitely Streets of Rage
Hell
2.
yeah.
So,
There we go.
yeah,
I could like if you want to save it for later, we can save it for later. But I could go into a whole thing about why that game was so significant in music for video gaming.
Yeah, we can say that for the topic.
All right. So yeah, those are my games currently of now. I'm always playing new stuff. Tonight is going to be a fight night. I've been playing some DDR here and there with a good friend of mine. We've been doing DDR streams, and this Friday, of course, the new Link's Awakening drops. So I'm going to be playing that until I exhaust myself, and then wake up and play some more.
Nice.
Nice, man. All right, I guess it's my turn.
Yeah. So Rod, what you been playing?
So I'm going to be really quick here. I know we're on a bit of a time crunch, but I have actually been playing Yakuza 3. I'm going on that journey, man. Like we are steadily on this Yakuza journey, and completing, Kiryu's dragon. I guess his whole story from beginning to end. So Yakuza 3 is a part of the remastered collection. That is a new collection that's been released very recently. Sega is releasing 3, 4, and 5 at different points in the year. So 3 came out actually when they announced it at the end of August. 4 is coming out at the end of October, and 5 is going to release early to mid February. Through 3 for the very first time, straight from the PlayStation 3. Actually, this does not get a Kiwami updates, meaning that they have not remastered this in the Dragon engine, but they have they've up-resed everything to 1080p, and it runs at 60 frames per second, so
nice.
Buttery smooth. Yeah, very, very nice. So this is again my first time going through this series. Super, super fun. A lot of people have said that the beginning of this game is very controversial because it's very slow. But I actually really enjoy it. You play the first maybe 4-ish chapters taking care of an orphanage in Okinawa, actually. So you're not even in... You start the game in Kamurocho, but then very quickly leave after the prologue is done. And you are kind of doing some odd jobs around town. It's a lot of the same Yakuza stuff that we've been doing for the past few entries, which is encountering side characters in their sub-stories or the side missions. And you are kind of taking care of these kids and getting to know them. And I actually found that pretty charming and entertaining and fun. The game was actually completely retranslated from the old PS3 version, so you do get so things are more in line. This is actually a content complete version of this game. When the original Yakuza 3 was released in the West, they actually cut quite a bit of content out because the budget was so low. Yakuza did not sell well in the West at all. So to note, when Yakuza 1 released on PlayStation 2, that got an English dub. None of the rest of them did because Yakuza 1 sold terribly. So they decided to take out a lot of stuff out of 3, but now we have, with the PS4 remaster in the West, it's content complete. So that's really, really nice. And yeah, it's a really good time. The combat system is, your Yakuza standard beat 'em up. However, I will say that it is fairly arcadey, which is actually the most arcadey entry yet. Meaning that people you can do like wall bounces and like you can throw someone and they'll bounce off the ground and you can do combos.
Really?
Yeah, really. Like it's almost.
I want to see that.
It actually kind of feels like Tekken, to be honest, which is a little wild. Like the other entries haven't really felt like that before. Like it's satisfying. Like Chris, you can kind of back me up on this. Like the combat has always been satisfying, but it's not. You're never gonna mistake it for like a fighting game, a full-fledged brawler.
Yeah, it's a little bit more grounded than like a fighting game or like a beat 'em up or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So this is so it's unique in that way. So not only do you get a new city and kind of a
I think we might have lost them.
can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, you do get like kind of a revamped combat system and everything like that, and a new city to explore. So that's really, really fun and compelling. So now I've been kind of playing these games in a row. It is refreshing to have these elements be so prevalent because it's helping me to not get burned out. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that game so far, and that's pretty much it. I've dabbled in some Fire Emblem, but I feel like we'll talk about that at a later date as well.
That's a whole episode on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fire Emblem's like a whole. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I think with that we're probably gonna do make a YouTube video and have like a freeform spoiler, like a spoiler.
What have
cast.
you been playing?
Huh? Uh-oh. Rod, you there? I think we're having technical difficulties with Rod, but I think he was wrapping up. I think he was asking me what I've been playing. Yeah, so like I said in the beginning of the episode, this is like that rare time where like I'm actually like able to play multiple games and like actually jump into them. It's weird that I'm not really focusing on too many games. I'm sort of like dabbled in between a couple. But I guess I'll just jump around. I'll start off with Celeste. That's a game that came out. Yeah, it came out early last year, and it's pretty interesting. Like I've heard that it was a really good game. I saw that it won a ton of awards, so I had to see what the hype was all about because I feel like as of late I've been on like a really good like indie kick where I think it started with playing Undertale, where I started playing that and like just fell in love with that game. So now I'm sort of like, since coming off of that game, I'm like, all right, I want to play more games that I've heard really good buzz about. So Celeste, if you haven't seen it before, it's like a platformer / puzzle game where you're playing as a girl named Madeline, and it's like it's a platformer where like you have like she's pretty much climbing a mountain, and you're able to grab onto ledges and perform like a double jump. So you'll have a regular jump, and then you have a double jump. Her hair turns blue, so it's good to it's a good indication of, hey, you're out of jumps. But like into the game, like further into the game, they throw in mechanics where you could sort of reset your jumps while you're like in the air with certain items that are sort of floating in the air. But I've had a good time with it. Like it's I think maybe about halfway up the mountain, so I've met a couple of characters. They've sort of started talking about like how like the other side of her has like manifested into like its own being. So she's interacting with that character, and like it's a lot of like back and forth with like her mental health, and you sort of see her, have like a panic attack and getting through it. So like it's it has some like really clear messaging on like just mental health and everything like that. So I'm really interested to see where like the game takes it, because like it's like a prevalent theme in this game. Have any of you guys played Celeste?
Oh yeah.
I've actually had like an interesting history with Celeste. Back at one of my old jobs, I had a friend of mine who, what was it called? The Pico 8 is what he had. It was like a little miniature computer or whatever. And apparently that was what the game originally was made on.
Oh, cool.
So it started out as like a little passion project, and then it gained so much momentum that they made it into a console release. And so I think if you're putting on the Switch,
Yeah.
there's a Pico 8 mode in there where you can play the original version of how it came about.
Yeah, I found that.
And so it's really interesting to see like where it came from. And so yeah, I was excited to see that it got like a console release, and I think I made it to like the first hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I kind of got stuck on the laundry thing, and I haven't been back. It's just too many games coming out. But
too
yeah,
many
it was
games for real.
it was a lot of fun. I do like those type of platformers like that.
Yeah, and it's a nice change of pace because I've been playing a lot of like beat 'em ups and RPGs lately. So, playing a puzzle game is sort of like it's testing my patience. Because you're right, that hotel bit, I could sort of see where someone could put the game down for a little bit, but I don't know. Like I feel like it's I'm at the point now where like certain puzzles it'll take me a while to get, but it's all about like memorizing what's happening, memorizing like how your jumps are gonna be or where it's gonna put you. So and also it's also about taking jumps that you're not really too sure on. Like it's sort of like just taking the leap. I feel like that's something that I'm sort of pulling out of it because like if you're going through a section, the game it has a pretty good like sort of checkpoint system where like once you move over to the next screen, that's where your reset point is. But there's certain screens where it's a little bit longer. And let's say like you get stuck at like the beginning of that screen, but then now you're moving forward a little bit. There'll be times where, you may not really know what to do, but you're going with such a momentum that you really do have to like just sort of like move with the purpose and like just trust your gut and take jumps. So that's something that's something I'm really liking. I'm liking that I don't know, like I'm going with going with the flow and trusting myself with certain puzzles. So
jump back into that one. Are you trying to collect all the strawberries too? Or are you just
hell no.
That's what gets me. I can't let those things go.
So here's the thing. So you have like these strawberries that you could collect, and I was doing that for like the first two levels. And then eventually there's a point where like I'm not sure if it was a character or it was like a load screen, but something was like, like these strawberries, like it's cool to get, but it won't impact the story. Like it's more or less something that will impress your friends than change the outcome of the game. So once I heard that, I was like, fuck it, like fuck these strawberries. I'm just trying to get through these puzzles, and I feel like going for the strawberries, I'll be something that I'll do on another playthrough because I feel that, especially with me playing on the Switch, I could easily pick it up and play it. I'm just trying to get through the story at this point because just the story of they haven't really. Like right now, she's trying to prove to herself that she could climb to the top of this mountain, but I feel like they haven't given like the full reason on why like it's important for her to make it to the top of this mountain. So
it's not immediately apparent, but I mean the analogy there is that she's struggling with a mental illness. That being depression, because the mirror self of her is like the analogy to that being like the darker, more cynical side taking over, saying, hey, you can't do this, and turn back, and yada yada yada. So it's a really powerful story. I don't know if you recall, but this actually made my top 5 last year when this came out. I love Celeste.
Yeah, so I'm definitely gonna keep playing this game. It's fun. Like like I said before, it's like a nice change of pace compared to like everything else that I'm playing right now, and a nice change of pace of like what's to come with everything else that's coming out with all these games. But
I like Celeste because it's like they took that N plus / Meat Boy kind of formula, but they turned it into a thing that is a lot more story driven and a lot more emotional and kind of like subtle, you know, like Meat Boy almost feels like a mobile game in comparison, and N Plus definitely feels like a mobile game in comparison. Like Celeste feels like a full, like just like a more well-rounded experience, I think. The interactions you have with characters is really good. There's lots of nice little touches with the pixel art. The music is really good. It's like you know, it's like the final form of that genre of gaming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you brought up a good point. Like that's one of those games that normally when you're playing platformers like that, it's like they'll give you like a quick like, you know, hey, like in the case of Super Meat Boy, hey, you're trying to rescue your girlfriend,
right?
So you have to go through all these levels. But this one, like, it's giving you a narrative while you're doing it.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I like how the strawberries aren't necessarily for any reason other than like, hey, I got this extra piece. It's not something that you need. It's something that's there for the people who want to go that hard.
Exactly.
And that's cool. So, that's cool. It's not like a necessary component, you know.
And I am so happy for that because like games like that, it's like, hey, you can only access this level if you have this many of these things. So it's a nice change of pace where it's like, you know what? Just make it through the game, enjoy the story, you know. And
see you later.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, while playing, you could also unlock like the B-side tracks,
right?
So, and that I guess that's like the harder versions of those levels. So,
yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna touch that. I'm good.
Chris, you got this, bro.
I'm gonna wait until I finish through the game and then I'll jump back and do the B-side.
We'll see.
Yep. All right. Next up, I picked up a game called Moonlighter. It was on sale on the Switch.
Oh, good choice. It's on the Switch too?
Yeah.
So that's a good choice.
Yeah, so it's on the Switch, it's on the PS4, Xbox One, PC. Game Pass. It's a really interesting game. It's like a dual part game, 2 parts. You're playing as a shopkeeper who, like, you know, by day, you know, you're running a shop, but then by night, you're going into dungeons and you're pretty much like defeating monsters, trying to get through each level to like face like a boss of that particular dungeon, and then, you know, you'll open up like your next dungeon. But everything, like all the monsters, they drop, you know, materials. You'll take the materials back home, and then sell it in your shop. So like that in itself is like a pretty interesting gameplay loop. So like it's, you know, you're playing as a shopkeeper, but then at the same time you're also playing as like the hero, like trying to like, you know, I guess like save the island or save the town that you're from. And it's really interesting because like I'm running into the instance where it's also like a roguelike when you're in the dungeons. You know, every time you jump into a dungeon, it's randomly generated. So the room placement's different, the enemy placement's different. So each time you go in, it's, you know, it's a little bit different. But when you're playing, if you die, you essentially like lose everything that you have in your backpack. So it's that constant battle of, you know, I have so much on me. Do I keep pushing forward, or do I like teleport back home? So there's been a couple instances where I was greedy, and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and like see what this floor takes me. Let me, you know, try and get to the boss, or let me you know, just go a little bit further. This game will slap you in the face if you get too cocky. Like it knows when I feel like it knows when you're doing that, because I've had a couple of instances where, you know, I came across one monster who like that I've never seen before and haven't seen since. And like I was on a really good run. Like I was picking up all this real loot. I was picking up loot that I haven't even seen before. I was like, wow, like I'm having a really good run. You know, I have like all these potions left. Let's see what the boss drops for me. And like as soon as I like think that, like that whole, like I formulate that thought of like, let's see where this is gonna take me, that very next room, this monster shows up. And another thing is, you know, the play styles, like the weapons that you use in this game, you have a sword and shield, you have a great sword, bow and arrow, a lance, and then my favorite
Gloves,
weapon,
I think.
the gloves. So any game that has like gloves, or you could be like a fighter. That's my role. That's what I go for.
Chris,
So,
no.
so with the gloves, it's really like you have to be up close and personal. You really have to make use of your dodge. So this monster shows up and says, "Yo, fuck your couch. I'm taking everything you got," and just destroyed me. Like, I lost everything. Like, it was really it really hurt because I felt like I was doing really good, and then the game just like it said, "Nah, you're not doing really good," and it taught me
buy that bow. Or go craft that bow, I should say.
And like the game is really deep. So like you're getting all these materials in the dungeons. You could either choose to sell it in your store, or you could choose to use it to craft numerous weapons, armor. You could use it to you could also use like these crystals to enhance your weapons and armor. So like it's pretty deep. And then on the other side of like running your shop, you place the items like on the table. You actually get to decide the price points that you sell the stuff at.
Mm-hmm.
Because you open up the store, you have your items on the table. Once the customers start coming in, you sort of like look at their reactions. Like if they go over to an item, they look at it and they're happy about it. Like you'll see like a smile over their head. That means they like the price. It's good. Sometimes if you make it too cheap, you'll see like they'll smile, but like they'll grin really hard. And you'll see like gold coins in their eyes. That means like they know, yo, like this is a really good deal. As soon as I see that, I'm like, shit, what did they just pick up? Let me go ahead and adjust the price now. So it's that. And then, of course, like if it's way too high, then they'll like, make like a face like, yo, what is this? It's way too high. These prices are way too high.
It's the best when they make that face, but they'll still buy it.
And they'll still buy it. Yes.
Yes.
Like, yo, I'm not happy about this, but I'm still gonna buy it.
Man, right,
and that's mostly because there's like an economy in this game. So let's say that you keep grinding like, the first floor of the first dungeon and you keep selling the same items, eventually the market's gonna be flooded with those items, so the rarity is gonna go down. So eventually, people will, let's say if you're selling a like a wheatstone for like 50 gold coins, but you like oversaturate the market, people see it, they're like, yeah, this is, too much because, I could get, this, I guess, for a better price somewhere else. So you'll have to then lower your prices to adjust to it.
Wait,
but
did you say a weedstone?
Whetstone.
Whetstone.
Okay.
He did.
I
was just being silly.
But so like it sort of forces you to push yourself in those dungeons, go a little bit further so that you could get better items to sell. And like I'm having like a fun time with it. Now I am cheating a little bit when it comes down to like, items that I'm getting on like the third floor of the dungeons. I'm not playing no games with that stuff because that stuff, like, it's expensive. So I'm making sure that I'm putting the stuff out at like the best price. Because I like the first time I ran through the third floor and I sold some stuff, like I sold them all for like way too low. Like I think I was selling stuff for maybe like, like 200, 300 gold coins, when in actuality it was like worth like 1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could
first get a handle on the price.
Yeah, you could do stuff like that, or you could be a scumbag like me and just pull up a guide and find out.
Filthy casual.
But yeah, all in all, it's a good pickup. I'm not sure if it's still on sale on the Switch, but I think normally it's $25. I picked it up for I think $11. So it's a really fun game. Like I'm really liking it.
Nice.
Next up, like I said last week and a little bit this week, Undertale. I fucking love that game. It's like the world, the music, like just everything. Like that game completely caught me off guard. So, here I was post like Undertale depression. I'm like, damn, like that's it. There's no more of this game. Like, all right. So, and let me wrap this up. So I talked about it last week where my first playthrough was, I guess, like a neutral playthrough. The second playthrough, they sort of like, at the end of the first playthrough, they sort of like wink at, hey, you should play the game over and, play a pacifist playthrough where you don't kill anything. Like, because at the beginning of the game, they sort of like tell you that it's up to you whether or not you listen to them. And, I love the game so much. I was like, you know what? I'm going to restart the game, play, pacifist. And the game sort of, it acknowledges that you reset it because your character will do certain things that will, I don't know, like you'll see an interaction where the character's like, a character will tell you, hey, how did you know to do something like that? Like, I didn't even tell you yet. So it's really like, it's like it knows what you're doing. So I was like, yeah, so I did that playthrough and then found out that, I could do another playthrough where I kill everything, but it'll sort of taint your save file. So if you do a genocide run, your subsequent playthroughs after that will sort of like be different. Even if you do like another pacifist playthrough, you'll get like a different ending because you did a genocide run. So being, the person that I am, I don't want to taint my save file. So I pretty much just watched a genocide run and I got the gist of it. Like I sort of want to leave and like the game also like makes like a little note of like, you did a pacifist playthrough. Everyone is, happy. This is like the happiest playthrough. If you restart the game, everyone's going to go back to the way they were. And I was like, you know what? You're damn right. I don't want that. I think this is like a good stopping point. I am good. So, if I do play the game again, it'll probably be like a normal playthrough or another pacifist playthrough. I don't know if I could. I don't think if I have it in my heart to do a genocide run. But like I said,
so are you a Sans main now?
You know it. As soon as I finished Undertale, I went ahead and like I don't even download those skins, but I went ahead and like that's like the first skin I bought for Smash Bros.
Right on.
But so I found out that Toby Fox, the developer creator of Undertale, he's actually making a second game called Deltarune, and you can actually play this first chapter of the game, and it's for free. You can go to the store, like whatever store that the system's on. So I think it's on Switch, PS4, and PC.
Yeah, that demo has been in my Switch like forever.
Play it. It's really good. You're playing as like a human character named Chris. They
go figure.
Yeah, and it was funny. Like I was like, wait, I don't remember putting Chris. Oh, it's Chris with a K. And I was like, I don't remember putting this in, but that's really it's on the nose. But it's weird. Like this world is like a alternate universe of Undertale. So you'll see characters that you've seen in Undertale, but they won't acknowledge each other. Like they won't, it's like they know of each other, but they're not going to acknowledge anything that happened in Undertale. So my take on it, and I think, it's even been said by Toby Fox, is that, this is a different world. It's not the same world that you know of from Undertale.
So it's not really a sequel then?
Exactly. So yeah, it's not really a sequel, but it's I feel like it's a like they sort of improve on like the gameplay mechanics. Okay. So with the first game Undertale being, when you're in a battle, you have like the heart there to dodge the attacks. You still have that, but then when it comes down to like the actual battle, like it's sort of built like a old school RPG.
Right.
Where, you have like you have like the multiple party members and stuff like that. So you'll see them on the screen instead of just seeing the enemy on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But like this is another one of those games where if you like Undertale, you'll fall in love with like these characters. Like the writing of the game is it's really good. The game has like a lot of like has like a lot of like messaging that you really have to like really be paying attention to pick up on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like, certain characters that, like there's like the bully of the class that you like at the beginning of the game, like you catch them eating chalk, and you're like, you may just take that up as like, wow, that's just the class bully just being really weird. But throughout the game, that bully gets thrown into like this shadow world with you, and it's like made a point where it turns out like she's hungry, because I guess she doesn't really eat at home, or it's not available at home. So like anytime there's like food, she'll like attack the person, or like she'll pretty much bum rush people for their food. And there's like a point where she gets like a star fruit, but then another character is like, oh wow, like I've never had that fruit before, I wonder what it tastes like. And she gives up the fruit, and like, and this is after she made the point of her saying like she's hungry again, and you just sort of see like the character development going through in that part. So I don't know, like I'm really enjoying it. I hate that it's just one chapter out right now. I feel like I'm playing this game at the right time, because right after I finished the first chapter, Toby Fox on Twitter, because this game has been out for a year almost, he went ahead and released new music for the game. So it's sort of looking like he's, getting ready to release chapter 2, or maybe release the game, who knows. But he's sort of taking his time with creating this game. He knows that Undertale was such a cult hit that it's gonna be hard to sort of like live up to it.
Right.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's the kind of game that I don't think you can really recreate. So when he comes out with this sophomore album, essentially, it's gonna inevitably turn away some people, and some people are gonna stick with him just for trying to see whatever vision he has for this one. But when you do something like Undertale, it's like that's kind of like that's sort of like a once in a career kind of thing, I think.
Right.
And it just happened to be his first, or maybe just the first that we know about.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's his first like major game. Like the thing that he worked on before Undertale was like an Earthbound ROM hack.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm super excited. Like I'm willing to I'm willing to wait. However long he needs to make this game, and I'm on board of like you're right. You can't duplicate what she did in Undertale. Like this is gonna be a different game, and they sort of say like make that a point at the beginning of the game, where I feel like Undertale was all about choice, and like every choice that you make had like an effect in the world. But at the beginning of this game, like they clearly say that some things are just meant to happen, like your choice doesn't matter. So like it'll give you like a character creation, it'll let you do different things, like even like naming the character. But once again, it's like, what did we say? Your choice doesn't matter. So the character creation sort of goes out the window. You're playing as like a set character with a set name, and there's certain points at the beginning of the game where you have the option to do something, but then it's taken right away from you. It's like, you're taking too long, or we're just gonna do it this way instead. So I feel like that's a point where this game is just going to be different. But I feel like as long as the writing is on point, like it has been, and the music, because he's a great composer. As long as the music is great, I'm good. I'll be here for the ride.
Cool.
And I have, what is it? I have one last game. Well, I guess it's more or less of like a combo.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So last week I talked about Apple Arcade. That was announced during their whole iPhone 11 conference. And if you're in the iOS 13 beta, you can actually go ahead and like jump into Apple Arcade now. So I took the chance to go ahead and do it. If you do it, I believe the first month is free. So if you're on iOS, if you're have any type of Apple product, I guess newer, not even newer, but like I guess if you've run any of the newer updates or firmwares, you should be able to get Apple Arcade. So that's your iPad, iPhone, Apple TV, stuff like that. Try it out. First month is free, and it's a curated list of like handpicked games that come under like this $5 umbrella. So in my mind, think of it like what Xbox Live Arcade was, like that type of like quality of games,
Like Summer of Arcade specifically.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that. So imagine that, but like just in a mobile format. And even with that, like some of the games that I've played, it feels like more of like an indie game, more or less than a mobile game.
Right.
So like I'm not running into ads. You're not gonna run into energy crystals. You're not gonna run into all of the things that people hate about mobile games. So like microtransactions, having to wait a certain amount of time to do certain actions. Like you're not having to worry about that with these games.
Right.
So
yeah, they look very indie. I'm looking at like the lists right here. Like there's a list of like the top 10 launch games that you should definitely play for Apple Arcade.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Looks interesting.
Yeah, and then I think last week we talked about one of them in particular. They're doing a Choo Choo Rocket. It looks like it's a sequel, like it's a new game.
Really?
Yeah, so that's pretty much what put me on. And I was just looking at some of the other games, and like you said, like all of these games sort of have like that indie type of like feel to it. So
Yeah.
and not even knowing that people like, I sort of threw this in a chat that I'm in. And I was like, hey guys, like, I sort of stumbled across this game. I think it's pretty cool. And it's Sayonara Wild Hearts. They're like, oh yeah, we know about that game already. So I don't know. It's a Sayonara Wild Hearts. It's sort of like a pop. They call it like a pop album video game. So it's sort of like, think Rez meets
Just Rez.
just Rez. Yeah, it's like Rez, and I'm enjoying it. Like it's a game that you can sort of like just pick up and play. It's like custom written pop soundtracks. You're normally like running through these levels as you're playing as a girl that she's like the main character, and
She's going through like a breakup or something, right?
something like that. And like you're and each level is different. So like one level she's like skating like on her on a skateboard. Another level she's like on a motorcycle. I just did a level I jumped on the back of like a deer or something like that. So they're really trippy levels.
Oh
But-
yeah, this looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is definitely the type of game that you definitely have to see, because it's like what I'm saying right now is doing it no justice.
Right.
Really.
Right.
Yeah. But like I said, it's on Apple Arcade. It's actually on the Nintendo Switch and PS4 as well.
It's like $12.
It's like $12, but it's cool that it's on Apple Arcade. Like I feel like that's a really solid like launch title for
Yeah.
Apple Arcade.
This game looks right up my alley. I'm gonna stop everything I'm doing and go play that.
Is that almost like that kind of like 80s neon kind of aesthetic?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of Tron-ish, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really early in that game. I've only done like a couple levels. I've and just sort of looking at the progression of all the levels I'm doing, like at the bottom of the screen, and like at the pace that I'm beating these levels at. Like the levels aren't really too long. It's something that you can like pretty much finish in a sit down
And you're
session.
playing on your phone, right?
Yeah, so I'm playing it on my phone. So like I feel like that's why I haven't really finished it, because I'm sort of picking up, playing, and then going on with my day. So I'm maybe like doing one or two levels at a time.
So when it comes to games like that, the thing that always bothers me is how it controls.
All right, so with Apple Arcade, like they're really making an emphasis on the gamepad support. So you can connect a Bluetooth controller to your device. So play with an Xbox controller, play with a PS4 controller, I believe. You could do that, But then at the same time, I'm on my phone, so I'm not gonna pull out, I'm not gonna pull out like a PS3 controller or PS4 controller out in the middle of nowhere just to play a game. So I'm using the touch controls on a lot of these games.
I give it 2 years.
You're
switching that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like if they're gonna emphasize gamepad support, then simultaneously it should also be at the point where like the iPhone or what have you, whatever mobile device just has a quick little dock like a switch, and then you just drop it onto that, and then it's on your TV.
Like those game grips for like the xCloud.
Yeah, I mean like that sort of thing. It's kind of like, well, if you're gonna give me like, cause yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna prop this thing up on a table and play with a controller. Like it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, and that's what I like about the Apple Arcade is that if you do have a like an Apple TV and everything like that, like everything is cross save. So like whatever progress you make on your phone, when you get home, you have an Apple TV, put it up on your Apple TV, you'll continue off wherever you left off. Cool. But I do agree, like I'd be really dope to just be able to like have a dock to just plug my phone up to it, and play it that way. But yeah, Sayonara Wild Hearts, definitely pick that up. And if you're in the Apple ecosystem, definitely look into Apple Arcade. Like it's $5 a month, access to over 100 games, and that's just with them starting. I'm pretty sure that list is going to get bigger and bigger. And like I said, these games are curated, so it's not like we're going to get a bunch of trash to flood the marketplace. It's, games that they're actually like picking to put on the store.
Cool. And are these games, is it like Stadia where you're playing off the server, or are these games you just download and then you get to keep?
Yeah, you just download.
Okay. Is it a thing where it's like you get to keep them, or is it like, PS Plus where once your subscription goes out, then the game doesn't work even though you actually have it downloaded? Or do you know?
I'm not sure about that, but I'm thinking it's going to be like how PlayStation Plus is. Once you're not subscribed to it, it'll stop working.
Okay, cool. It's good to know, because that's like, everybody works a little bit differently. Like all those free games I got on 360, those all still work, but like PlayStation, it did for a while, like they were doing that, and then now it's like they switched it over,
Yeah, but I do enjoy that. $5 a month. That pretty much means like just skip out on some coffee.
Yeah,
and you could and
$5 a month, and you have something to play on the train anytime.
Exactly, and like these games are like,
they're games that could, they could use the attention too. Like I like that they're kind of getting. Well, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to say really quickly that as far as the Sayonara Hearts situation in Apple has gone, apparently this is like we're breaking news. So basically, the developers and the publisher, Annapurna Interactive, they actually did not know about their involvement within Apple Arcade. So
wow.
Oh.
Yeah, so we should definitely come back to that like once we kind of find out more. But the Twitter is like the official Twitter, the dev Twitter and the publisher Twitter are kind of going off about this right now, like as we speak. So maybe not the most kosher thing. But yeah, we'll definitely have to come back to that.
Yeah, I wonder how they're making money off of that at this point now.
One would think.
Yeah,
the way Apple does,
through osmosis,
really, really well.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll definitely be something that we hop back on at a later time.
Cool. So are we talking about these soundtracks or what? What's going on?
So we're gonna jump straight into our topic for this week. And we sort of talked about it on and off throughout this episode. And that's going to be just music and gaming. We're going to sort of touch on like how, each of us really feel about, music in gaming. How does it affect like our, just the overall gameplay, like our memory of the game. And then we're going to round it off with our, top 3 tracks or favorite soundtracks. So I sort of want to start off with like, I feel that music and gaming, it's pretty big. I sort of, we put out the post on our Instagram saying, hey guys, let's talk about what's your favorite soundtracks, why it's your favorite soundtracks, what does music and gaming mean to you? And I've had a couple of good feedback from people. Talked to one person, they said that they play games, but they play games with with Spotify playing, so they're not necessarily playing the game for the music, they're playing it for the game. And to me, like if I'm playing something like Undertale, like I feel like Undertale really, resonated with me because the soundtrack is, it's so memorable, it's so good. So that, I don't know, like I feel like a game's music could make or break it for me sometimes. But what about you guys? How you guys feel about just music in gaming?
Well, I have to give a shout out to, I was looking up here, the very first game with continuous music playing is Rally X from Namco.
Ooh, wow, that's a deep cut.
You can find Rally X on just about every Namco museum that they ever release, and they're always going to release Namco Museum, rest assured. It's on Switch right now, literally. So yeah, I didn't even know that. I was just looking it up. The first game, Rally X. So I think music is a very powerful tool on all levels in all forms of media, but in gaming, especially for indie and for retro gaming, I think it's as important as graphics, really, because of the limitations of the hardware, or because of the vision of the artist, of the game developers. Like if it's something kind of simple, sound is what carries it. Sound is what made old school Metroid 2, like on Game Boy. That's what made that like frightening and scary to me. It was weird. It sounded alien. It sounded strange. Sound is what kept me grooving on like Contra, because Contra was a super hard game, but the music keeps you going. It's like, all right, this is like shooting people music. Okay, let's go. Let's, you know what I mean? Like it keeps you driven.
Yeah.
And it's weird because a lot of those games were very abstract with their stories. The whole lore of it might have just been in like a manual. So the music kind of told a story in its own way. I think that goes for all games all the way up to now. Celeste is a great example, like we were talking about earlier. Great music. But yeah, I mean, I think for a long time music was kind of like the only thing. A lot of people, anyone in the world could probably hum the Super Mario Brothers theme for you, or Tetris or Sonic or whatever. Like everybody knows those. Everybody even knows Halo, and that's not even that old in the scheme of video games. You know what I mean? It just goes a really long way to connect sound to the feeling of playing a game, to the visuals, to the memories of playing these games. So yeah, that's just that for me.
Yeah, Rod, James, how you guys feel?
Yeah, so I mean, I have to echo a lot of what Herb just said. I mean, for me personally, when I think of like the top soundtracks, for me, they always evoke a feel, whatever the game is or about. The best soundtracks for me has always managed to dredge up those feelings that I had while playing the game, while I'm actually playing it, or if I'm searching for a soundtrack on Spotify or YouTube, or I'm listening to the music outside of the game. Which, if I'm listening to your game soundtrack outside of your game, I really fucking like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big thing. So it's always given me that feeling. One of the best, I know you guys already know, like one of my favorite soundtracks of all time in gaming is definitely the Jet Set Radio soundtrack. Both games. Yeah. I mean, those soundtracks, Hideki Nagamura is a bona fide genius to me, in the fact that he not only mixed his own compositions, but he used existing songs as well, like to complement his original stuff. And they all are, like, so many of them are funky and fit in, even if they're not all hip hop. Like they're like they're pop or funk or something that gives you that feeling of rebellion, freedom, youth.
Right, the
it's
future. Yeah,
exactly the future. Like that's exactly what those soundtracks mean in the grand scheme of things, whether I'm playing the game or not. And that's such a powerful thing. And like Herb said, music itself is a tool that is potent, like to any form of media. So yeah, what about you, James?
Well, just to kind of switch things up a little bit, I definitely have to agree that, the soundtrack to these games are very key to a lot of experiences, especially on the older side of things. But I think about even moving a bit further into the modern type of video games. I think about the sports games even, and how impactful the soundtracks have been for not just the game itself, but for the careers of so many musicians that have been featured on them. Like, for my sports fan, everybody remembers the Madden soundtrack, and you get like Blink-182 feeling this. Put me in like a whole different genre of music altogether. I'm like, it leads me down a rabbit hole to discover. Or I even think about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
How legendary.
Right, legendary and instrumental those soundtracks were in just the overall gameplay loop.
Tony Hawk kind of got like an entire generation of kids who didn't know punk rock into punk rock.
Yeah, it made it dope again.
Yeah, for real. Like it was like all of them were good, but those first two Tony Hawks, it was just like all of a sudden, I wanted to take that CD out the console and put it in the car and listen to it.
Right.
And you could. That was the cool thing.
Right, you could actually go and find them on LimeWire or whatever.
Yeah.
Was hot back then, and like make your own mixes. But yeah, like even outside of just regular composed music, I even think about sports games. Obviously, benefits from a lot of them. The WWE games where you could like make your own themes and have like your own music play to your entrances. It just really sold the experience that you are that wrestler. And you're finally living out that dream. Because, I mean, of course, everybody knows, like, the Marios and the Zeldas and Tetris. And, like, I can play some of the songs in front of my mom, and she'll be like, oh, that's so-and-so. And she is, one, terrible at video games, and two, does not play them at all. But, yeah, man, music is key to a lot of these experiences. From Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Mario, Persona, Persona 5. I actually went and bought that. I want to get a vinyl of that soundtrack. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just, there was a time where I really got away from listening to the music because of the ability to play your own. Like the 360 era, I played my own stuff over the music all the time. Like Dead Rising 3. It was just like cool to put on some Disturbed, which I'd find from some of my friends, and then it's like murder zombies to like 10,000 Fists or The Sickness or whatever. And it's just like, it's really cool to see how those type of things can really come together.
I sort of feel like there was a time where some games, like the music was there, but like you said, like certain games, like I guess it sort of adds to it where you could add your own music or listen to your own music. So
that was a whole thing when the first original Xbox dropped. It was like, wait a minute, you can rip your music CDs to this thing now? That was like a whole thing. I remember getting games specifically on Xbox just so I could listen to my own. Like, for instance, not that they don't have, this has to be said, but the Grand Theft Auto series has incredible soundtracks.
San Andreas. Oh.
Yeah. And then on top of that, it was like when they dropped 3 and Vice City in a single pack on Xbox, and it was like, you can listen to the radio if you want, or you can put your own tracks now. It was just like, I was like, done, sold. I got it for that.
What was the other game? It was like a competitor to those. True Crime.
True Crime, yeah.
True Crime. They had a very similar feature on there too. My cousins would put on like Trillville. Just ride around LA, just like cruising or whatever. It was so good.
All right,
Chris, what about you, man?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, so moving on, like, let's go ahead and jump to, I guess, and it's hard to,
it's too
choose.
hard, guys.
Yeah, it's hard to choose your favorite soundtrack. It's just, I think, Rod, you said this earlier. You could list like a couple, But as soon as we stop talking, or as soon as like you really sit down and think about it, you're like, damn, I completely forgot about this game. I completely forgot about that game. So just know that what we're listing, at least for me, what we're listing here is not going to be like a definitive, list of our favorites. I feel like for me, it's going to be like my top three in no order.
Okay.
Like off the top of my head, type of thing. Like I guess something that like I can instantly like think of that type of thing. So I'll start off. I think I have to shout out like the original Sonic the Hedgehog games. Like that, the music in those games, like it's as soon as I get something where as soon as I can hear it, like I know exactly what game it's from, everything. Like it's really good music. And it's sort of like it's along that lines of like how like you said, like everyone knows what the Mario theme song sounds like. Everyone knows what Green Hill Zone sounds like. So that's gonna be it for me. In particular, I want to shout out Sonic 3 and Knuckles. That combo. That I feel like I think I spent the most time on the game, so I feel like that's why that hit so hard for me. I think a next game or next franchise I want to shout out is Persona. So for me, Persona 4 is what got me into the franchise. Persona 4 has a great soundtrack, but Persona 5, by far, like I sort of wish I recorded my reaction to hearing the first, hearing the theme song for the battle music for the first time. It gets so good.
That's my alarm.
Nice.
Seriously is. That's what wakes me up every morning. I'm ready.
Yeah. And then I guess my last would be man, I mean I sort of said it before. I guess it's like an honorable mention, but Streets of Rage is there. Streets of Rage 2 in particular. But I guess my official 3 would be Metal Gear Solid. Like that's another franchise that just each game had iconic music. If I would have to choose my favorite theme song from a game, it'd either have to be like the original Metal Gear Solid theme song or from Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater.
Snake Eater,
yeah. Snake Eater is pretty good.
Snake Eater, that song just slaps. Like it's good. But that's me. What about you guys? Rod, what you got?
Oh man, you had to come to me first, man. Yeah.
I got a lot, man. When you're ready, let me know.
Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and go to her first because I'm compiling mine.
All right. So I've got games, and then I'm gonna talk about producers and composers, I guess. So without a doubt, Jet Set Radio, absolutely. Those two soundtracks, I mean, to this day, I have an old buddy that I call up, and when we answer the phone, he's like, "Fly," and I'm like a butterfly. Like he knows, like we're on that level. Wow. Okay, it's hard to know where to start. So I want to give a big shout out first to Tetsuya Mizuguchi.
Oh yeah.
This guy is behind Space Channel 5, behind Rez, Lumines, Meteos, Every Extend Extra, Child of Eden. Really just like incredible visionary of video gaming. All of his games involve music in some way. They all are kind of, surreal music, kind of like visual connected games. I mean, they're the kind of games that like if you play it with some other kind of music, you are missing the game.
Yeah, I mean, music is literally driving the mechanics.
Yeah, and often you're making the music by doing whatever you need to do in the game.
Right.
Really fantastic stuff. Also, Yuzo Koshiro, of course, for doing Streets of Rage. A lot, it's years ago now, but what a lot of people don't realize today is that the very first Streets of Rage was like basically the first time in a video game that video game music wasn't really like used, if you know what I'm saying. Like it was the first time where like club music and music that you go out and hear at places where people are dancing and that music was translated into the Genesis, into this game, and it totally kind of like influenced a lot of future beat makers and producers. It changed the whole concept of like, that was the kind of game where like I would leave it on in an area where, I wouldn't get hit, just so I could listen to the music. I would go to the sound test just to put it on, just to have something while I cleaned the house when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It was just good. It was just like really good. It didn't sound like chiptune. That's the thing. It sounded like samples.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time I remember hearing like what sounded like actual music. Not that chiptune. You know what I'm saying though. It felt like actual produced music, like you would get on a cassette or on a CD. So big shouts to him. I also wanna bring up Kenji Yamamoto. He is the guy that does most of the Metroid music.
Oh yeah.
Almost all of them. Not the very first one, but all the Primes, Zero Mission, Fusion, Hunters, all that. Metroid Prime just the very first game alone, that soundtrack like moves me. Like it's like it makes you feel like you're there. It has great instrumentation, but there's also like organic sound effects, like natural sounds going on in the music that he uses as parts of the beats. It just amazing stuff. I cannot wait for Metroid Prime 4. I don't care how long it's gonna take. I want it. I also want to give a shout to Ko Otani. This is the guy that has done the music for tons and tons of anime, including Gundam Wing.
Ooh, nice.
And Zatch Bell and Outlaw Star and a bunch of other anime. I mean, like an endless list of anime.
Yeah. Just keep naming all the greats. Why don't you? Oh man.
He does the soundtrack to Shadow of the Colossus, and I have to say, for a game with so much time spent in silence as you explore the land and try to figure out where these huge monsters are to kill them, when you come across certain areas, or when you actually come across a Colossus, like all of the sudden this huge sweeping orchestra like just surrounds the whole scene, and it's like breathtaking. It's just like it's like something in like a, I don't know, it feels like, like something some famous white dude with like a wig on who's deaf would have wrote on his piano like 300 years ago or something. I mean, it's like it's just like, damn, like I've never been so I've always liked classical music, but I feel like the combination of that with a game where you're doing something that, where the action suggests that kind of epicness, it just really complements it really well. There's still tracks to this day. I can't remember all the names of them, but like I downloaded the Shadow of the Colossus soundtrack like when it came out way back on like whatever service was able to download it on, and have not stopped listening to it. It is amazing. And then that's already a bunch. So two more. There's a guy named David Wise. He is the main composer for the company Rare. He has done everything from Battletoads to Donkey Kong Country to Star Fox to freaking Snake Pass and Yooka-Laylee. Big, like I'm such a fan. Like so many of those songs from Banjo-Kazooie and Diddy Kong and all that N64, that whole time of Rare being on top of the world, like those just like they're a lot of times they're silly and they're kind of whimsical, but they were just perfect. It was like they stole a dude who was making Saturday morning cartoon music and threw him into video games. I don't know. It just those always like big shouts to him. He's still making music. I mean, Yooka-Laylee, the newest one just came out this year. He's still doing the music for Rare all the way back to 1987. Mm-hmm. And then as far as well, to be honest, this past year, a video game soundtrack that I have listened to again and again and again. I play it in my car. I play it in the shower. I listened to it yesterday. Is The Messenger.
Okay.
The Messenger is incredible. It has probably one of the best chiptune soundtracks I've ever heard, ever. The game has equal parts 8-bit and 16-bit visuals and sound, so the soundtrack is a double album. where it's on Spotify and everything. The whole first half is 8-bit, the whole second half is 16-bit. It's just awesome. It's pulsing, it's driving, it makes you feel like a badass ninja. It brings back this like feeling, this idea that we all have in our minds of the 80s, like that sort of Kung Fury sort of, you know, kind of like Terminator, kind of just like that feel of like everything's in neon and I have a gun and I have like no shirt on and it's the 80s, like fuck yeah, you know, like
What a time.
you know what I mean, like
Yes.
I don't know what you call that, but that's when I think of the 80s in my mind. It's like everybody had like no shirt and like wild colors, and everybody has like guns and like crazy cars and shit, you know. I don't know.
That's not playing Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm missing so many. There's so many more out there. Of course, I want to say Third Strike because I think it has the best fighting game soundtrack.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was around the time of Jet Set Radio, where everything was kind of like a lot of video game music was kind of moving into like breakbeat and drum and bass and all that. Yeah, I mean, there's so much more. I mean, we could go on forever, but there you go. Those are mine.
Yeah. And I want to throw in, because I'm already starting to do it. I want to swap out Metal Gear.
This guy.
And I want to put in Undertale, because that game has just moved me so much. It's Toby Fox, you're a genius.
Cool.
So who's next? Who's got their list?
James, are you prepared?
I've got some that can like freestyle off the top of my
Okay.
head. So
Yeah.
well, I've been trying to think of how I want to do this, and I think I want to try and take this by console, because I was thinking generation, but that's too many. So just to give you guys some more time, let's start with the first console I ever played, Game Boy. My favorite soundtrack off of the Game Boy goes to Pokemon.
Nice.
I was gonna say Tetris at first, but there's just something about walking out of Pallet Town, walking into a Pokemon Center, your first like rival battle even, or just first encounter. There's just so many like. That's one of those hallmark soundtracks that everybody's kind of knows. You hear that dun 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 dun. Like, I'm ready. We're gonna go fight. Let's do it. Me and you, like, battle our rats. Yeah, let's do it. I'm here. And it's just something about that soundtrack that's always stood out. Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES.
Yes.
Love that soundtrack. We played that recently when I was up there in Atlanta for you guys. Had a couple minutes with that, and it just brought back so many memories of sitting in my grandma's house with nothing else to do, because like it's grandma's house. But just like lock myself into that room playing those games so many hours and hours and hours.
I still miss the little jingle when you die, where it's like ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum.
Ba-dum. Right. And speaking of death tunes, giving Mario more credit, Super Mario World on the SNES.
Oh yeah.
Everyone knows that. That's probably the most famous death song that I could think of. Followed closely by Donkey Kong Country for their soundtrack on there. Probably two of my favorite soundtracks, period. Jumping up to the 64, Banjo-Kazooie. That was gonna be my number one.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an amazing soundtrack, dude.
I'll put that soundtrack up right now and just listen to it. I think they just did so much fantastic work with just the sounds and how it's all one continual song, but it'll shift to different instruments depending on the area that you're in. It's like you dive underwater, you get that underwater feel, or you walk over to Freezy Peak? I think things get like a little
Freezy.
Freezy Peak, yeah, something like that. And it gets so much like lighter, and you get that wintertime feel, but it's still that same doom 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 doom, just like pushing you through it. I love that soundtrack. God, Banjo-Kazooie was so good. Let's see. If I were to go for PlayStation's difficult, but I think I would have to get it to Spyro. I wouldn't say it's the best soundtrack out there, but it was just one of the most iconic ones for me in that time of my life. Love Spyro's music. Let's see, PlayStation 2. I was gonna go with a Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. But then I remember about everything else that came out on PlayStation, and there were so many great soundtracks on there between the Tony Hawk series, Def Jam Fight from New York, Maddens of that time, Maybe original soundtracks though. Final Fantasy X. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy X as a game, so that soundtrack stakes with me a lot too.
Yeah, I mean Nobuo Uematsu, he just does great work with that series in general. Like,
Yeah, and he's been going forever too. That's another big one.
That's true.
He's like, I mean, the dude's like almost 60. I mean, he has like 18 games under his belt. It's crazy.
yeah.
How does he keep coming up with this stuff? I don't understand. Honorable mention for PlayStation 1, Final Fantasy 7, One Winged Angel.
Yeah.
Still like strikes fear sometimes. I love that song. Let's see, I'm on PlayStation 3 now. In that era, PlayStation 3, Final Fantasy 13. A lot of people didn't like that game, but I really enjoyed the soundtrack to Final Fantasy 13.
Cool.
Wait, 13 that's the RPG, right? I mean the online RPG, right?
No, that's
Nope.
14.
No, that's 14.
Oh, okay.
That's 11 and 14.
Yeah. 13 is the one with like the 30-hour tutorial that everybody hated.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
the music was fun.
I buried that to the back of my mind. I remember now.
The thing I remember the Leona Lewis song from that game.
Yeah.
Leona Lewis, what happened to her?
She bled all the way out.
Oh. Is that I just don't understand. Is that a
Her hit song was called Bleeding Love.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
I was like, that is really
She
hard.
keeps bleeding love.
Okay. I was like, that is
that was savage.
that is
But I love
savage. My God. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Favorite soundtrack on the Wii? I'm cheating here, but Super Smash Bros.
Oh, sure.
It's unfair, but just even their original songs for that game, so good. Like nobody knew Latin in college, but everybody learned it for that song. Let me see. What system am I on now?
I think we're close to current gen. I think.
Yeah.
I think I do have a few. That I'll just.
Dreamcast Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2.
That soundtrack actually was pretty good back in the day.
Crush 20? Yes.
Yeah, Pumpkin Hill is actually good today. I'm not gonna lie.
I just played that the other night, so it's fresh in my mind. And rest assured, there were like many laughs by me and in the chat over the lyrics of that song.
Oh man, Pumpkin Hill is. I will actually defend that today. Like genuinely, I actually really like that song, and I will even give props to Unknown from Emmy. Like I actually think that's a really cool. So like the one from 1 though, the one from 2, I don't know what they were doing with that, but the first one is actually kind of solid, and I enjoy it. Like even if I don't love Sonic Adventure, the game, like today, I will say that they did right by the soundtrack. Like every single character has like their own style of music. Yeah, I really appreciated that.
That's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's like a beautiful level of camp, because it's like some of it's a little hokey, but they do it in a way that's so earnest that you're like, yeah, man, yeah, like like you get into it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I do have some. I know we're gonna wrap up here shortly, but I wanted to definitely. I mean, I don't think any of these lists could be complete without some Mario title on there, and I think you guys have named them already. But definitely Mario. We already talked about Jet Set. Herb, you mentioned Shadow of the Colossus. I mean, it's classic. I think you put it beautifully. A recent one that I think deserves to be in an all-time category is Nier Automata. The what they do in that game is really stellar. They actually one of my favorite things that any soundtrack can do is weave the narrative themes throughout the actual music itself, and that's something that they do consistently with Nier's soundtrack. There's a lot of orchestral sort of kind of choral singing going on. Like it has a very epic feel to it. So when things are super serious, you get that vibe. When things are a little more playful, like when you're in the robot village for the first time, like it has a kind of like a jovial sort of tone to it. Like it's extremely varied, something that I very much appreciate. Definitely a modern game that has an all-timer soundtrack. And I think Halo deserves to be in that conversation. We sort of mentioned it earlier, but I don't know if we really got into it. Marty O'Donnell is, I think, right up there with like a Mizuguchi or a Umetsu. Like, I think, like he pioneered, I think, what console shooters could sound like. I don't think that there was many other shooters with such I don't want to say eclectic, but like sort of a very grounded take on with this kind of genre behind it. So like there's obviously everyone knows the monks, right? Like from the main theme, but he managed to do a ton of other things. Like he incorporated like heavy drums in his tracks that gave you a very like military style feeling, so it felt like you were actually doing this. But just like you were saying with Metroid, Herb, it gives it like an alien kind of unfamiliar feeling that I really like. Exactly. Something else I think is really great, and I think the studio puts out fantastic work with each and every single game they do, but easily the best one is definitely Supergiant with Bastion. Bastion has like top tier soundtrack goodness going on. Darren Korb, I actually have a CD with Darren Korb's signature on it. Nice. Like, it is one of my most prized possessions. I love it so much. What I love about that soundtrack is that, with Bastion, it's sort of like a neo-Western kind of aesthetic to it, and that is prevalent throughout the soundtrack for that game. And you get sort of like some Once Upon a Time in the West, like kind of Clint Eastwood sort of vibes with that soundtrack. And I really appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so definitely wanted to shout that out really quickly. And my personal list would not be complete without the inclusion of Phoenix Wright. I mean,
ooh, nice.
The amount of, or the lack of dialogue in that game is very apparent. It's a visual novel, so music is literally carrying it. And you get no shortage of that at all. As soon as you press the objection button and you are about to call somebody on their shit, that objection theme starts playing. You start, you get up, you're like, oh yeah, you're fucking lying, and I know exactly how. Like, it's just some really good, like, you just know that shit's going down. They do a really good job with that, and one of the things that is special about this soundtrack as well is that it iterates on itself. So like as you progress through the series, it starts simple. Like the main theme for the game starts very simple, and then maybe in the second game they'll add strings, and maybe on the third one they'll add drums, and like they manage to kind of quote unquote modernize the theme with each successive entry. It actually kind of reminds me of what they have continued to do with the Mario games as they progress, and I think Odyssey was a really good example of that. So yeah, Phoenix Wright, definitely A++. But that's, I think, on my top tier list.
All right, so I have another addition to my list.
Yeah, me too. I got like 5 more.
All right, so I would completely beat myself up for not mentioning this, but the Destiny franchise, by far, dope soundtrack. Like, that's something that like I still have like the soundtracks. Like, I bought the soundtracks on Apple Music, and it's something that like randomly will pop up while I'm working out. And like I feel like it's just the memories of like going through like the Vault of Glass all night just to get the helmet that I had 6 of. I think just memories of stuff like that. I think that's why it holds so dear to me. But I just want to throw that in. Destiny, has a really good soundtrack.
I also want to throw in, I can't believe I didn't mention it, but basically pick a Mega Man game and you've got a good soundtrack.
Ooh, god damn, I forgot about Mega Man.
Mega Man, Capcom had a lot of great soundtracks on a lot of different systems and different games, but primarily I think back in the day, I mean it's toe and toe for a lot of people, but I think when I think of like old school retro gaming and music, I think Konami, but in the case of Capcom, Mega Man stands alone. Like, I mean, fantastic 8-bit soundtracks, and even the newer Mega Mans, even the later ones, the X's and the Legends and all that, all of that has been good. Whenever I get a chance, there's a band from Athens, Georgia, called Bit Brigade. They come to town a couple times a year. They do some cons, and their whole thing is they have a guy on stage speedrunning a classic game like Mega Man 2 or Metroid or whatever, and they are a metal band, and they play the music and all of the themes and everything in real time as the guy speedruns it.
What? That's dope.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
So, the character selection screen, the game over screen, like the continue, the password screen, like they do all of it as he's doing it. So if he fucks up, then they start the song over again, It's really, really cool. Go see Bit Brigade if you ever get a chance. Their shows are like $15. They almost always play at the Earl. There's a couple different bands, around the country doing that sort of thing, but these guys, I have to say, do it really, really well. And even though I'm not like necessarily the biggest metal fan, when you hear specifically Mega Man and also Contra in metal form, it's like, wow, this music was like, wow, this was like how this was written. Like this sounds like what it was. They just couldn't make it sound that way because it was, because of the technology. So they made it. The 8-bit kind of took on its own feel, but underneath all that, it's really, it's fucking metal.
Nice.
So, Mega Man for sure. That whole series.
Mega Man 2 is their #1 video right now.
Right on.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. Definitely worth watching. The speedrunners that they get are good and do a great job. And there's a lot of little moments in the crowd where people are like bashing their head and like jumping all over the place. And then there's moments where like it's very unlike a normal, rock concert where, you're in this little room and everybody's crowded, but everybody's like dead still and just watching.
Yeah.
Like just watching the guy like go through it. And trying to rock onto the band, but trying not to miss the good parts where he beats the boss in like 10 seconds,
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Anyway, check them out. Mega Man, definitely some of the top soundtracks. I would probably say Mega Man 2 or 3 for me.
Very nice choices. All right, Chris. Herb's got places to be. Let's wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah. So with that, we're gonna thank our guests for being on the show today. Herb, James, rolling out the red carpet. What you guys got? What you guys have going on? You want to shout out, Herb?
So, of course, I am Game Master Herb. I make arcades happen here in Atlanta with a variety of different DJs, artists, vendors, events. You can catch me every Monday with Controller Eyes at the Monday Night Garage. You can catch me on Instagram and Eventbrite under Game Master Herb. Thank you so much for having me on here again. It's awesome to talk about this. I think we could do a 12-hour podcast on video game music. I realized that this discussion,
we underestimated it.
It's unfolding.
Yeah.
We got a disc 2.
Cool. But yeah, thank you so much. Happy to be on here again. Glad to be back. I look forward to future dates. I look forward to the podcast. I'm glad you're at 30. That's amazing. Keep going. And thank you. And to every, really truly to every composer out there, to everybody interested in music out there and also interested in video games, please make sure your games have good music. It might influence a whole new generation. You never know.
Absolutely.
All right, James, you got anything going on?
Catch me with you guys. Make sure you catch up to the new podcast. We're working on the YouTube channel, trying to get some more videos up on there. Hopefully be seeing more of me on that. I might be doing some Borderlands stuff on there just to get us some more like video content. I'm curious to check out some of these games y'all mentioned here. I haven't played Nier Automata yet, so I want to see what that's like. I might do a playthrough on that, put that up on the channel. But catch us on the Instagrams, Facebook. You can find me Scalade09 on Instagram. That's pretty much what I'm using right now. Scalade09 on Twitter as well. And man, stay tuned. Keep this train rolling. Number 30. This is awesome.
All right, and with that, we're gonna round it up for the week with like I said, new season 2. We're gonna do things a little differently at the end of the episodes, and we're just gonna wrap it up tonight. No list.
What? Well, moisturize your ankles.
See, what I want for you guys is that all the stuff that I had, all the lists, all the, life pro tips, positive affirmations, like just take that stuff with you. Make sure that, I wasn't saying it just to say it. Like I've had some people tell me, hey, like I felt like you were talking to me when you said all that stuff. Good. That's the point. So, right now I guess I'm going to compose a different list of things to say. If you guys want to throw in some life pro tips for the new list, let me know. I'll throw it in. And, that's it. That's another week. That's another episode. I appreciate everybody listening to this grand episode 30. Loved it.
Yes.
And, guys, just stay beastly. Have a good week. Peace.
Peace.
We love you.